Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And with me today is my very old, emphasis on the old friend, Mr. Heath. How are you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. I mean, it's a phone call for me. I don't have any video for you, so this will be like normal. This will just
not
be
my fault. That's
you
your
and me.
fault. You should.
It's my fault. It's FaceTime. You can't do it because you're not in the eye cult.
Rekieta Law, a small law. No, I don't
the cult
bend
of
the
Mac
knee
or whatever.
I don't bend the knee to Apple. I bend the knee only to Google. So
yeah, right.
How dare you?
Who's worse though? I don't know. I think Google's worse.
I think so. I think they're both worse. What is going on? Guys, I'm sorry. I'm trying to set everything up here because I've had a disaster of a day, sort of. I had a very good day, but also terrible. You want to hear about it, or are my problems not interesting?
Man, I don't care. I'm interested in your problem. Dude, I spent 6 hours building Legos today for my kids. Like,
you just said
I'm not even kidding you.
You just said, I don't care. I'm interested in your problems. Those are contradictory statements.
What? I don't care if you want to share. That's fine.
So I was in the cities all weekend because I had a live show with Dick Masterson yesterday.
Yeah.
And I know that you didn't attend, which I think is rude.
I didn't get an invite. I had no idea.
It's a ticketed event. There's not like an invite.
You got to tell me about these things. I don't know.
No, I've got to keep you wholesome. It was too much degeneracy. Yeah, right. It was ridiculous. It was, and you're so not a degenerate, apparently.
Honestly, that's going to be the biggest challenge for me being on your show, because either someone is going to find it and then like send this to where I work and then I'll get fired, or God knows, like
don't give them ideas.
I'll say something that's inflammatory.
You just did. You just suggested that you should be fired for being on my show. How dare you? Now I'm going to send the show to your work and tell them that you should be fired.
It's a controversial thing, yeah, being on your show.
Yeah. No, so I was in the Twin Cities for a live show, and that was yesterday night. And so then we had to get out of our our accommodations today at like 11. So then Lady Rackets and we go to my wife's name is Lady Rackets. So we don't,
All right.
I know you're new to all of this, so you don't know the lingo. So I'll help you along. But
should I come up with a nickname for my wife?
Yeah.
Let's see here.
You should.
All right, hold on. All right, you keep telling. I'm gonna brainstorm.
Okay, so then we go, and we don't have kids, so we need to take care of a couple things like shopping for some stuff. So we go to the Mall of America, which is always a terrible plan. But then
I hate that place.
We're like, I said, oh, we were in Barnes and Noble, and we're looking for books. And we come across the Scary Stories books, which we already have. Do you remember those things, the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark?
Yeah.
With the horrifying pencil sketches?
I don't remember the pencil sketches, but I do remember Scary Stories at night. I don't know.
That's the only thing that matters in the Scary Stories books, is the art is horrifying. The stories themselves aren't that scary, but the art is terrifying.
Wow.
Why do you don't remember?
I don't know.
This?
Listen, I was a good kid. I mean, I didn't have access to all this demonic cultic stuff that you apparently had access to.
Yeah, well, the school library is run by a coven. That's actually probably true.
Might be. You never know.
Right. It was a public school,
the local
so
Satanist
definitely
library, right? Yeah, it's a public school. The local Satanist librarian, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, since my camera is not broadcasting to you for some weird reason, I can't show you the books. I just show you them. I have them in the next room.
It says, here's what Facebook tells me. It says connecting to Nick's video. It's been that way for like 20 minutes. So
can you try disabling your video and starting? Well, that's probably a bad plan. I'm sure no, don't disable your video. Actually, don't do that. Don't do that at all. I just thought about that. Don't do it.
You just thought about it, yeah.
I did. I did.
Right.
It'll make it worse. They can see you and they can see me, and the audience is all that matters in this stuff.
That's the only thing. Yeah, that's all that matters. Plus, honestly, Nick, I mean, I've seen you before. I mean, I know what you look like.
Are you sure?
It's well, you did get a haircut. Honestly, your haircut, I've been waiting for like a style change for your haircut for like 10 years, man.
No, you have not. This haircut, I got this style change. No, I got this hairstyle last year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like years, like years
you're saying
ago,
you were
like
waiting
5 years ago. It's like, okay, bud, you've had the same haircut for as long as I've known you. How long have we known each other? Like
I was thinking about this.
15
It's about
years.
It's longer. It's like
2017,
I think.
Yeah, because it was like 2003, right? What the heck? 16, almost 17 years? That's nuts, man.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
So,
I
anyway.
remember when being 20 was old. Anyway, finish your story. I want to.
Yeah, so we go. I'm like, oh yeah. By the way, the movie for this is out, and she's like, "There's a movie." It's like, yeah, there's a Scary Stories movie, and it's directed by that. Oh my God. Okay, don't do that ever again. I could hear your.
What did I do?
I could hear your volume. You turned on the video.
I did.
Yeah, that's fine. Just keep it muted. Anyway, so it's directed by Guillermo del Toro, right? And I was like, we should go. Maybe we should go see it. So we went and saw the movie, and it's okay. The ending is trash. I've noticed that about Guillermo del Toro. He can't end movies. Like they just the ending is garbage, and he should maybe he should be publicly shamed for it. But the rest of the movie is fine, kind of interesting or whatever. But they really nailed the art style of these old horrifying pencil sketches, but in real life. Yeah, it was good. But about halfway through the movie, I got a skull-splitting headache. Starting like right here, it went straight back. Oh wait, you can't see. Right here's just above my eye, and it goes right back through my skull, just like someone shoving an ice pick in my ocular cavity. And
a migraine.
Yeah, I think that's what they call them. And I had that until about an hour ago, so that was nice.
That sucks.
Yeah, it was like from 3 till 10. So, anyway.
Yeah, don't you have? I don't know. Don't you have Tylenol or something? Honestly, my wife would tell you to drink water. She'd say the reason you have a headache is because you didn't drink enough water. So
and she's probably right. But I had an orange crush. Does that count? Is that the same thing?
No, not. It's you just did the opposite of drinking water. You like you dehydrated your body and just jacked yourself up.
I don't
on
believe
35 grams of sugar.
You can't dehydrate your body by adding liquid to it. I don't buy that.
You can if the reaction of your body.
I'll take you don't sufficiently hydrate, but I will not take that you dehydrate.
I don't know, man. I saw a meme yesterday that told me that Diet Coke dehydrates you. So,
well,
it's on the internet.
Memes are true. Memes are true facts. So I believe it. Yeah,
that's where I get most of my information.
I agree. So anyway, it was rough though because I spent several. No, but I took a migraine pill, and then I don't get migraines. It's very rare, so I took a migraine pill, and then when we got back into town here, I took Tylenol, and then that didn't help either. Oh, and I took a nap. All of this was a failure. It just stayed there until like 10. So that was nice. But
wow, that sucks.
Thanks.
Sorry about that.
Thanks for the condolences.
What do you want me to do? Create a safe space for you? Do you
Yes. I do. But anyway, so that's my day. And so I apologize to the stream for the video not being perfect and being late. That was entirely Heath's fault, the lateness and the video. So anyway, but we're here to talk about a couple things. We're here to talk about being dads We're here to talk about being, functioning men while being dads,
Right.
because that's two different things, right? You have your dad obligations, but you have obligations to yourself to improve, to work, to provide for you and your family. All of those things that you had to do before you had kids, you still have to do. And that's how we reach like self-enrichment or whatever Maslow says is up at top. And then and then I figured we could talk about literally anything else, like memes or whatever. Because
memes, actually, I thought of a topic. So Stephen King is the best. He's the best fiction author, hands down, in the United States.
Okay, Stephen King.
I tell everybody that now. Yeah, and you can trust me because I teach literature for a living. So
I mean, King is good, but I don't know if he's the best.
Yeah,
he is. Are you just saying he is?
Like I'm not talking about like this is the man who. I'm not putting him on par with the greats. Like he's not up where, Tolstoy or Dostoevsky or, he's not there. But I'm just saying, like, in terms of being able to tell a really interesting story that has compelling characters and also that is just freaking weird, Stephen King, he's the man. Like, I know I'll pick up a Stephen King book and I'll read it and I'll not want to stop reading it until the end. And like, I just finished Under the Dome. This is a 1,200 page book, 1,200 pages.
Yeah,
and
the man has
when it ended, I was like, dang it,
he has a problem.
There's not more?
No, of course there's not more. Stephen King has a problem. He has an issue.
A good problem.
He's
very prolific. Yeah.
1,200 pages of Under the Dome. Why didn't he just write a series?
It was fantastic. It wasn't my favorite, but because I've kind of been binging on him for the last couple of years, and so like The Stand, I loved The Stand. That was probably one of my most favorites. But that's like a 1,400 page book because he added like a bunch of, like, when it originally went into publication, it was something like 800 some pages, and that was because when he submitted the draft, it was over 1,000. It was, I don't know, 1,200. I'm guessing here, but it was over 1,000, and the publisher was like, "No way, man! You can't make a novel this long." And so they cut it down. They pared it down to 800 pages in the original publication. And then it had like an anniversary publication recently where he added all the good bits in, that were cut out. And it's fantastic. It's great. You have no idea why it's great. It's just the characters are compelling. It's an interesting situation. I don't know.
I will say that he is very, very good at putting you in the mind of characters.
Yeah, right.
I like Eye of the Dragon or Eyes of the Dragon. That was good. That was a good one. Did you read that?
I haven't read that one yet.
What kind of Stephen King aficionado are you? You didn't even read that one.
I'm working my way through it. So I started with the Dark Tower series and Salem's Lot, and then I read it, and like I'm working through. What about the Dead Zone?
But you said he's the best author currently in America for fiction, right? But what about LaHaye and Jenkins?
Left Behind?
That's true. That's not fiction. That's the problem with that one.
Yeah, that's totally true. That's the way it's gonna go. Apocalypse.
I don't know if I agree with you. I like Chuck Palahniuk better than Stephen King.
Well, I don't think I've ever read one of his books.
Well, then you made a declarative statement, very, very officially.
Yeah.
You're like, look, he's the best author in America. And then I give you another author, and you're like, well, I haven't read him.
But okay, popular modern authors are trash. So mostly. So this is you're talking to a literature snob, man. I mean, you were in the same creative writing classes as I was,
everything.
Right?
I'm an everything snob. I'm a snob of all things.
Like, yeah. Well, like I've been burned too many times. You know, you pick up a novel that's super popular, everybody likes it, and you start reading. Like I tried reading a Jack Reacher novel, and I finished it, but it was hard, man. It was boring and it was stupid. And I think the author has a fetish with hands, because I cannot like I could probably. He probably a dozen times described Jack Reacher's hands as being the size of like turkeys, or something like that. Like he kept describing how large this man's hands are, and so I don't know. Like there's all sorts of Freudian connections there. That
I like Card better than King. I like Simmons better than King.
Dan's okay. Well, but Dan Simmons, I wouldn't classify him as a popular author. He's like a
wait a minute, now you're narrowing the field to popular authors.
I mean, Stephen King has got 51 books or something like that. He's sold, millions of copies of every one of them.
Yeah, but you're comparing him now to like E.L. James. Like that's where you've gone.
Yeah.
These goalposts are in orbit.
Right. Right. Like who's the lawyer? Who's the lawyer guy? Who's the guy that writes lawyer fiction?
Grisham. Grisham.
Yeah, Grisham.
He hasn't written a book in like 20 years.
And then there's all the others that
other people write
like
Grisham's books.
Sort of cheap, ghost written books. Yeah. I don't know. So maybe I'm comparing him to too narrow. I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you hell.
Popular
pop. What I consider pop literature would include like anything that's like considered a bestseller. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if Dan Simmons ever did a bestseller. Maybe.
I think Hyperion
won the Hugo or something like that. Like he's well known and accomplished in the science fiction world.
If you gave a copy of a book to every homeless person in Minneapolis, you would have a bestseller. Like that's how low the bar is. That's how bad book sales actually are these days.
Says the person who's written how many bestsellers?
0. But do you realize that if I transcribed one of my shows and the people and counted every view as a purchase of my book, that I would have a bestseller every day?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Like media's changed.
Yeah, okay, fine. Fair point. All right.
Yeah.
Well, fair point. Okay,
now Stephen King's.
We're not talking about anything dadly.
We're getting there. We're warming up.
Here's something your fans can do, though. Okay, like if they legitimately, if they have someone they think is a contender, like I'm looking at the feed here, and a couple of them are suggesting, Michael J. Sullivan and a couple others. Like if they have options, contenders.
Have you read Cormac McCarthy? Is it Cormac McCarthy?
Yeah. All the. What is it? All the Pretty Horses, and then the Road, right?
Oh yeah, he wrote The Road.
Sad movie. That's a father-son movie or book. I mean, which was made into a movie.
What do you do in the post-apocalypse as a dad? Well, maybe we should get let's backtrack a little bit. Let's start with our dad cred, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So I have 5 children, and my youngest is almost 2. So I'm a little bit behind you in some aspects. What about you?
Behind?
What? Well, no, but you'll see. What's your credentials?
Yeah.
I mean, put your CV down on why you're on a dad stream. Why are you on here talking about this with me?
Because I'm a dad. I've got 3 kids. They're all boys, and the youngest one is like not even 2 weeks.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm behind you, because you have many more diapers ahead of you than I do.
Sure, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, many more sleepless nights and other things. Many more diapers. Many more diapers. many more. Let's just be honest. Many more sexually frustrated nights because the baby is awake.
What are you talking about? That never happens.
What? You can't say that stuff on live TV, but this isn't live TV, right? So
this is literally live TV, but you can say it. You can say pretty much anything. Just don't say the N-word. Drexel's not here.
Say what?
Drexel's not on stream, so you can't say the N-word.
I don't have enough cred for that? Okay.
No, I mean, unless the lighting
I'm pasty
settings.
white, man. I mean, like.
I was gonna say, unless the white balance on your camera is off, I think maybe it would be a bad plan. But
Yeah.
but no,
I
yeah,
tried getting a tan and I just got sunburned. So.
You can. I just went outside and got sunburned. Like I went to get the mail.
Right.
No, I'm joking. I don't actually get the mail at my house. No, so. But yeah, we should talk about that because that's what we're here to discuss, right? Is being
kids,
being dads, having kids, what that means in your life, because it's a very different thing. And I think what really gets to me is how it impacts, I guess, just what we do, how we have to manage time in a completely different way. Like my entire life now, outside of or for my own personal benefits or leisure, really takes place starting at about 10 p.m. Like that's just how my schedule works out, because during the day, if I sit down to do some sort of project that requires focus or attention, I'm going to get interrupted. So I have to modify how I do these things. That's why my show is so late at night, for example. So I kind of want to talk about that stuff. But
yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, it's similar because the bedtime is go time. You know, it's like some nights it's like, okay, guys, come on, let's go to bed. You know, Daddy's got stuff to do. You know, and sometimes it's serious stuff like during this. You know, so I can say this, right? I can say what I am, right?
Yeah,
like
of course.
Like my job.
It's on your GoFundMe. Sure? It's on the GoFundMe. By the way,
yeah, that's right.
Just so you guys know.
No,
well, hold on one second. There's a GoFundMe linked in the description, and this is Heath, who is building a classroom library, and so the
it's
idea.
For the kids.
Can you explain it? Like talk about why you're doing this and what your whole purpose is?
Yeah. So okay, so I'm a teacher. I teach English, and I also teach some Bible classes too. But mainly I do English, and right now, and one of the biggest things that strikes me, like because I've taught in a number of schools, but kids don't read much anymore, and that's probably not a surprise to most people, but it's sort of a tragedy. Like I did a little kind of a classroom survey last year, and without a doubt, hands down, every one of my students said something to the effect of like, yeah, I used to read all the time when I was a little kid, or my parents read to me, but then I got into middle school or high school, and I sort of stopped. I got too busy, all this stuff. And so now I don't read. And so now you got people on the stream who are probably like, reading is stupid, right? Except that reading is like, when people look at success later on in life, reading is one of the things that is a strong factor. Like if you have really strong reading skills, starting even like as low as first grade, they can basically kind of predict your level of success based on like the degree of the skill to which you can read, and some of that's based on like the number of words you're familiar with, and things like that. But everything gets easier the better reader you are, and so I see kids all the time. Like, I have 11th graders who have maybe the reading level like 8th grade, and maybe, and that's not necessarily my lowest one. I have a 10th grader who's maybe a 6th or a 7th grade, and so
that's
reading
okay,
is a big deal. And honestly, I could talk a lot about why, but for me, reading it's always been a personal way of retreating from the world. Like I'm a little bit of an introvert, and I like people that I like, but I don't. But I remember being a kid, and we moved around a lot, and my retreat, my haven was always books. And so for me, I have these fantastic memories of being a kid, and like in fourth grade, and sitting down and reading through, the Two Towers or something like that, and just having these whole worlds that I had, in my imagination, and so for me, there's just been a ton of value, and I think because I grew up, and we moved around a lot, and I lived in a lot of really small towns with like pretty average or below average schools sometimes. And so
all schools are below average. That's what I learned.
Well, public schools can be,
Well, that's what I learned about statistics in public school, is that all things can be below average. So
for sure.
I will make that statement. All schools are below average because
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I took public math.
Fantastic. Well, fair point. But so I wouldn't look back and say, oh, I had these fantastic teachers that inspired me. I had maybe a couple, but for me, really, it was just I was fortunate enough to have a mom who read to me when I was young. But then, like, once I started reading, they just sort of pointed me in the right direction. And so I want to try to do something like that for my kids. But here's the thing: when you work for, I work for a smaller school, and it happens to be a private school, you don't have the same sort of funding as public schools. And by the way, public schools aren't well funded either when it comes to this sort of thing. But the same programs that are available to like a public school teacher aren't available to private schools for whatever reason. And so funding can be really hard to come by. And so that's kind of the reason that I wanted to do this, because ultimately, when I want kids to come into my classroom, I want to be a place where it can inspire their curiosity, where they can feel safe. Like I turn off all the fluorescent lights. I have lamps around my room and plants, and I have carpet on the floor where they can sit. And I want it to be the opposite of everything that you associate with an institutional sort of classroom setting, like a very sterile, disgusting place, the place that most of us are probably used to. Because I don't think those sorts of things foster learning. And so creating a really robust library is part of that, because, if you're surrounded by books, I think books represent potential, by the way, and possibility, then I think that all creates a healthier environment for learning and for the sort of thing we're trying to do. Teaching kids not just to read because, oh, you should know what this old dead white man wrote, but because I really truly believe that being a good reader and writer or communicator is the way that we will fix some of the things that are our problems in America. Like we need better readers and better writers and communicators. And so this is just like one little bitty part in my neck of the woods trying to do that. Is that sufficient? I probably talked too much about it.
Yeah,
but I can talk.
Your elevator speech was more like a train ride speech.
Man, a train wreck speech is what you mean.
No, I mean like, rather than being stuck in the elevator for 30 seconds, we were stuck in a boxcar across country. No, I'm joking. No, but okay. So the long and short though is you're trying to fill out a classroom library. You're looking for somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 books, I think.
Something like that.
That's like your ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And you've been and to let people know, you've been actually personally funding this project so far, right? You've bought books for the classroom library yourself. Is that right? Like, that's what you were telling me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is not anything special, because most teachers do that. But yeah, I mean, I think last year I was able to buy something like 40 or 50 books, but I mean, that's like easily $200 or $300. And, I try to get used books that are really well cared for, but, between $8 and $5, maybe $5 to $10 for each one of those things. And then you have to think of, like, if you're going to have these books, you've got to store them. So, I'm probably being a little bit, I'm trying to be kind of conservative. So maybe it's like around 1,000 books, and maybe some bins for storage or something that I can put in the classroom to make them a little more organized. I mean, there's all sorts of things like that you have to, that kind of go into that. So So close to 1,000, and that number is not a random number. It's there is research that suggests that that there's a tipping point with the amount of books that kids need to be surrounded by. That up until this point, there's just, if there's I think it's around 1,000 is the minimum, but 1,000 to 2,000 is kind of that magic number where kids are sort of surrounded by those books, and then they get drawn into it much more easily. And then the other thing is too, you've got, how many kids? The average teacher has anywhere from maybe 120 to 200 students that go through their classroom, and each one of those kids has a vast diversity of interests and opinions and stuff, and skill levels. And so you've also got to appeal. Like, I can't just buy a certain level of books. I've got to buy multiple levels to try to appeal to multiple kids. So I know it sounds like a lot to me. The amount of money is a little bit mind-boggling, and the amount of books sounds ludicrous. But that's kind of like the minimum level, and you'll see that in most good classrooms, like teachers who have been teaching for 15, 20 years. So, and I'm only, I think, seven or eight, something like that. So.
Yeah. So I think it's a very cool project. There's all sorts of, you were telling me there's all sorts of the issue that you have kind of is that the school library doesn't stock, a very diverse showing of books. And I'm using a scary word called diversity, but that's not what I mean. Like there are certain books that are off limits and books that are kind of surprising, especially for the age ranges of kids that you deal with. And
for sure,
the thing about a classroom library is it opens up the door for you to provide interesting books for kids who have varied interests in what to read. So can you give any examples of that type of stuff?
You mean examples of books or examples of restrictions or things?
Yes, both and.
An easy one for restriction is so last, I guess this would have been maybe a year and a half ago, something like that. There was a school, I think it was up north around the Duluth area, but there was a big story, I think, in the Star Tribune about how they were reconfiguring their English curriculum, and they were taking out some books. And one of those books was To Kill a Mockingbird, which is, a pretty standard English text. Like it's been in it's like around a 9th or 10th grade level book that's been. It's been in classrooms for ages. Really powerful book, obviously super influential, kind of a classic. But in some contexts, that might not be the best book, and so the school just removed it and saying we're not going to teach this anymore because it's got themes that we think are insensitive. So people would accuse the book of appealing to the sort of white savior complex thing, where it's like the only people who have agency in the book are the white folks. And that sort of thing. And it has other language in it too, like it uses derogatory terms and the N-word and things like that. And so for all of those reasons, it's just that it's a touchy book for a lot of schools. So my personal position is I don't think we should be scared of ideas or books, and I think that for students that are at the appropriate level and maturity, they can encounter books that are challenging and different and sometimes even disagreeable. Like the point would not be, having a book like that in the classroom saying, hey, all of this is really great and you should just believe it and think that it's all perfect and good, but to really think critically about it and dig into well, wait, why does this feel wrong to me, or why don't I like that, or why isn't this appropriate anymore? So stuff like that. I like the classics, and so part of what I'm trying to do is keep those in the classroom. Like I don't want kids just coming in and reading whatever the latest like Harry. Well, and I love Harry Potter, but I mean, you know, the latest like sort of Twilight thing.
I want to clarify something. I think people are misunderstanding, thinking that you're criticizing To Kill a Mockingbird, but what you're doing is actually relaying other people's criticisms of To Kill a Mockingbird and saying that those criticisms aren't justified in keeping the book out of schools, and that kids can encounter the N-word and be okay. Kids can encounter themes that are historical and truthful about race relations or about relations between men and women. And these things we don't have to be scared of this, because kids are actually better at processing this stuff than we ever give them credit for.
Exactly. Exactly. Like one of the people who I think have made that argument the best most recently is Jonathan Haidt, and he wrote The Coddling of the American Mind, and he summarized. Originally it was an article that he wrote, and then they expanded it in a book. But I mean, we have a culture of what he calls safetyism, but like we think kids are these fragile things, and if they're surrounded by threatening or scary ideas, or ideas that we would disagree with, that somehow that's going to like pollute them or break them. And it's the opposite is actually true, and especially if you give them the proper tools necessary to think about it. So really that's my classroom endeavor. Is I'm trying to equip students to be able to think through complex issues, because that's the sort of thing they're going to have to do as adults. And frankly, it's the thing that most adults can't do these days. Like, you can go to any online forum or topic and you can see that most adults these days suck at talking and they suck at thinking. And that's really unfortunate. I mean, I think our democracy is suffering right now because of that. So it, as crazy as it sounds, I think that a library is sort of a patriotic thing, in the sense that, we're trying to create people who can think well, and for the future of the country, I think we need that. So, I don't need to say any more about that. But yeah, I love To Kill a Mockingbird, and I do actually teach it in my class. I send parents home a little disclaimer, and I say, you don't need to be scared of this. Like, we're gonna read it, but it's gonna have stuff that maybe you're slightly uncomfortable with. But it's an opportunity to have a conversation with your kid, not something that they need to be sheltered from. So.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to talk to you about. Because you, like you said, we've known each other a long time. We've actually talked through issues ranging from, silly stuff like car repairs, all the way through, some of the biggest issues we face as people, or as individuals, or as society, and just trying to noodle through all of it, and I know you to be a very contemplative guy. And I was wondering if our world is beyond, and for better or worse, beyond the contemplative, right? Because it's like there isn't time in communication these days. There isn't time in media. There isn't time in interpersonal communication. It seems like to really have contemplative and engaging discussions. So, for example, I'll solidify what I mean here. If we wanted to talk about like police violence, we'll talk about police violence. Mm-hmm. Immediately when you bring up police violence, there are several groups of people who determine what you mean automatically, like what aspect of the subject of police violence we're talking about. You have people who are opposed to the state, who are going to put that sort of agenda into their interpretation of police violence. You have people who focus on the racial aspect of police violence, either for or like, I shouldn't say for or against. They're either for or against police violence. No, what I mean is right. they either believe that race plays a major factor or race doesn't play a factor, and we don't get the time to like fully assess and flesh out ideas anymore. And I've seen this with you specifically through the years when you would try to engage people who might have a very different opinion of you, and you try and engage those ideas, and then you're not allowed to. You're not even allowed to engage their perspective because they demand that you accept their perspective first before you get to engage it. And so it's almost like you don't have permission. Right. It's like you don't get to enter into my discussion until you accept that my perspective is valid and correct. It's weird. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the characteristic of online dialogue these days, and, just the other day I was talking with somebody. I made the mistake of posting something about, I don't even know what it was, but it was something to do with, I'm sure it was something to do with Donald Trump or the Make America Great slogan or something like that. But I think I was simply saying something like, I saw a friend, I know what it was. I saw a friend post this meme that said something like, if you're going to go around wearing a MAGA hat, and you don't see any problem with that, then you're blind to your racism or your ignorance or something. And my point was more of like super nuanced. Like, I would never recommend anybody just sort of like, if you came up to me and were like, hey, I got this awesome hat, I'd be like, really? Like, think about what you want to say. Think about the values that you have. Do you want to wear this hat? Do you want people thinking these things about you? And so I just said something to the effect of like, just because somebody wears a slogan or a piece of clothing or something, that doesn't mean that you get to sort of lump them into a category. And these are the same principles that we use for racism, right? Like, just because someone's skin color or ethnicity is a certain thing doesn't mean we get to throw them into a category. And it seems to me like it's all very similar. And rather than, jump into the particulars of like, well, who is this person and what are they thinking and what are the reasons behind what they're doing or what they're saying or supporting, we want to just sort of judge them. And so, and I got like, I got raked over the coals for that by some friends. And
because it's silly to determine that someone choosing to wear a hat or to support Trump means that your criticism of Trump is the only valid perspective of them wearing that hat. Like, that's a dumb point, right? Like, the person could wear the hat for any number of reasons, or they could support a specific policy, or they could just support the idea that they're tired of apologizing for their own country, and that's a fine thing. That's a fine thing for someone to do. We don't get to just determine that everything's bad because we don't like it.
Right. Well, right. And so, my friend and a couple other people who jumped on were essentially their main point was, there is no excuse for this. People who do this need to be dealt with harshly. They need to be silenced. They need to be judged and categorized and lumped and sort of like cut off of the branch. And I was like, that seems like the opposite of what we want to do for healthy dialogue. And but they were like, literally, I know we're going to disagree, and if you can't agree with us, we're done talking. And that was like the end of the conversation. And it was I don't know, but that's not a atypical thing these days.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. We don't get to do that anymore. It's, you have to automatically engage. You don't even listen to the rest of the argument. It's weird.
Right.
It's weird. So I was wondering, well, I don't know how far this discussion goes or anything, but it's just it's the idea, because I can say this. We're both Christians, and we both have been Christians our entire lives. And I think it's fair to say that you and I would both consider ourselves what are contemplative Christians. You don't even get to be a contemplative Christian anymore, because the moment you start asking questions about what is this particular aspect of Christianity, or what does it mean, or why do we even do this, you're immediately suddenly that's dangerous, and that's like permeated to.
Right.
And I don't really want to get into particulars of Christianity on the stream or anything like that, but that permeates into, or the sort of dogmatic approach of denominationalism permeates into everything now. It's like we approach everything with religious fervor. It's weird.
Well, I think I just keep dropping my pen, by the way. Sorry. I think you can tie it back to this dad thing. Like you were talking about how you manage, your schedules as a father, and then your interests and your responsibilities as a man or as a person. And I think they're all very connected to this. I see this as, well, okay, so I'll be maybe a little bit open more than I should. I don't know. But I love my dad, but I can't talk to my dad about politics anymore. There are things even within Christianity, that I just wouldn't bring up to him anymore because of what you're describing. And, it's sort of I read a book long time ago. I can't remember the name. I guess it was an essay, but it talked about how people can get frozen in their worldview, right? So the way that you view the world can be frozen so that you think that the way that you're seeing the world is the way that the world really is. You misunderstand that your perception is totally equivalent to reality, right? They're synced up. And they were basically that's flawed, of course, because there's as many perspectives on the world as there are people. And the ideal would be able to recognize that you might have a valuable insight or perception on something that I don't have or I can't see. And what I think is happening to a lot of people, and I think this is on both sides of the political spectrum, and I think it's a thing that you see with people who call themselves Christian or not religious at all, but they get frozen into their particular worldview, right? And so then they can't accept anything other than that, because then they would have to reevaluate literally everything, foundationally for what they base their lives on, or at least that's the way that they might feel. And so, as a son so to me, your father, the idea of a father, is always supposed to be somebody that you sort of, it's almost like I want to use the word sacred, but I don't mean that in a religious sense. I just mean it's a revered sort of thing. I think being a mother is too, where, if someone is a father, especially an older man, let's say, you want them to be someone you can look up to. You want them to be someone that you can go to and appeal to and get wisdom. And in all of our stories, old men and old women are the people with wisdom, right?
Right.
They've experienced things and they have a unique perspective, and they've tempered their different passions so that they can see the world a little bit better than young people. And so the idea of the older father is that this should be that type of person who's balanced and who's mellowed and who's able to see that the world is bigger than my own reality or perception of reality. And so I think, at least for me, one of the most challenging things has been that, while I love my dad and respect him a lot, there are just certain topics that I can't, I just wouldn't go talk to him about, because not only do I know that we're not going to agree, that's not the problem. The problem is that when we disagree, he views it as you've strayed from the right thing, Heath, you've gone off you're off the path now, or whatever. And it becomes different than just we disagree about key principles and okay, let's go. And ultimately, we still are family, of course, but it's a little different than that. It becomes more sensitive. And so as someone who's now a father, especially a father of boys, I think a lot about you know, and it actually kind of terrifies me. Like, am I going to get to the point, are my kids going to get to the point where at some point they're going to look at me and be like, he's a moron, like he's closed-minded, he's narrow thinking, he doesn't know as much as he thinks he knows. And gosh, I've lost a little bit of respect for him because I see all of his limitations, and that terrifies the crap out of me, man. And so
well, are you
so, you know, so when I'm raising my kids, this is something I think about, like how do I become the kind of person that they can respect as they grow older and as their worldview gets bigger than mine?
Right. I kind of want to expand on that. Like, so our kids, one of the things you're talking about is our kids going to look at us as if we're narrow-minded or closed off or something like that. And
outdated, obsolete, like whatever, you know.
Right. And part of the reason for that is because, I think that, and maybe this is the same as our dad's generations. I don't know, but the world will go in a direction that maybe we don't agree with. And I mean, I think in a lot of ways, the world's already in a direction that I don't agree with on so many things.
For sure.
I have 2 boys. You have 3. And this is one thing I want to talk about. Like, do you fear for your boys, like, or as boys becoming men? Like, because I do. I worry about what their world looks like. I already don't know what it would be like to be, in college today. I can't even fathom the difference. And when we went to college, it was ridiculous. Like, things were already stupid. We would sit in a class and there would be a very dominant perspective in that class that came from the professor and was reinforced by all the people around us. And holding tight to some of our own core principles was it was not a challenge, but it was a chore. Like, you had to fight just to have an opinion. That was at all different. And nowadays, with Title IX stuff, with the sexual assaults or sexual harassment, or now they're having, for example, the American Bar Association is pushing for an affirmative consent law in any sexual assault, or I shouldn't say law, but an affirmative consent standard in any accusation of sexual assault. So it's like, okay, so if someone's accused credibly, whatever that credible standard is, of some sort of sexual harassment or assault, when they go to trial, the presumption is going to be, if they didn't get affirmative consent, that they can prove that somehow they're automatically guilty. And it takes away things like just basic social cues or nonverbal communication. It forecloses that. And so I don't know how my boys are going to navigate that as they grow older. Like, I can't even picture it.
Yeah, I think about the same things. I mean, it depends on who you ask, because I've talked to people, and I've expressed similar things, and essentially they've said something like, "Oh, your kids are, your boys are white males, they'll be fine," and it's sort of this idea that
I kind of feel like it's the pendulum swinging the opposite direction in several ways, not necessarily
in some
all,
ways,
but it's if the logical progression continues, then there will be aspects of being a white male that are absolutely disadvantageous. We can already see it in places like Google, where white and Asian men they're instructed to avoid hiring white and Asian men, and eventually they'll be basically de facto prevented from doing it. They still manage to hire a high percentage of them, but as that directive keeps going and permeates, and more candidates come up to compete with them, it will be a disadvantage at some point if things progress in the same way. So if we take the economics argument, all things being equal, it'll be strange. Like, I don't know what to do about that, or how to prepare my kid. It's kind of an interesting problem. How do you prepare your kid for the idea that their skin color will be detrimental for them in some situations?
Well, there's a lot to unpack in that. I think I won't get into this too much, but honestly, to me, that's where Christianity I think is helpful, because I think there's a big strain, there's a big theme in all throughout Christianity that it's like, you know what, other people will take advantage of you, and when you can like rise above that and at the same time just like let it wash over you, you will come out the other side a better person, and you know, and it doesn't need to be an issue. And so to some extent, like to me, that's where I think part of the solution is, where it's just like, you know, our world. Okay, here's an angle. Like, I think most of the like social justice warriors want to make everything about power, and I think that one of the best things that white males can do is like make it not about power. like I'm not threatened by you being in that job or doing whatever you want to do, and to some extent, if it inconveniences me, well, you know, even then, maybe I take it on the chin, not because that's the right thing, but because I'm not gonna fight a power battle with people, because I don't have any stake in making a claim to some power, right? And so for my kids, it's like, you know, I think about, well, school most recently, because, you know, we've had to make decisions about like, are we sending them to public school or not? And ultimately we decided against it because, you know, not so much because, oh, they're a white male, they're not going to have enough, they're going to be mistreated, but just because, you know, I think that people tend to assume white males are okay, and like they're just going to be okay. And I think that's a mistake. I saw an article, and I can't remember the name of it, but this was the topic, where it was like, you know, there's a weird assumption going on that, oh yeah, we can just keep doing this sort of thing. We can keep talking about the white male and how, you know, how they're just a bunch of entitled, you know, sort of fragile little babies worried about, you know, all of their power getting taken away or whatever. And, you know, the conclusion that I would come to is, I actually think that it's really easy for white males, and I'm not, again, so I'm going to say something particular here, and I'm not trying to draw attention from any other group. Like, I'm not trying to say white males are suffering as much as like the black male has suffered historically. Like, that's not even what I'm saying. I'm just saying I do think that white males in America are having some sort of crisis. I think we can measure it statistically. I think we can see it practically, and very few people care. And I think that's a mistake because, for obvious reasons, but because white males still make up a pretty decent percentage of the population. And when you've got like, it's something like 20 million men that are working age that are missing from the workforce. Like, they're just choosing not to work. They're sitting at home doing, I don't know, in their parents' basement or something, watching YouTube, which is not always bad. But they're just not engaged in the world because, I don't know, for whatever reason, it's too hard. There's no real challenge there. They don't see that there's a place for them anymore. They don't feel like they're able to compete, or whatever the reason is, or that they shouldn't be out there because, oh, they're so problematic. Oh, white males are all predators and that sort of thing. I think that's a big problem. You know, so actually, I think there's a lot of young men who it's really
funny. So because I'm listening to you and watching the chat, and the chat is always 20 seconds behind. Now, what you did was you did something funny. You stopped yourself mid-sentence, and it sounded like, it was funny because it sounded like you were saying that white males don't have any sort of problems because of where you stopped yourself, and then I see the chat like, wait, and then you go on to say it, but it is just funny. Guys, remember that we are, as I stated before, we approach things contemplatively, and Heath is a long talker. So wait to draw
Sorry.
judgments before you get through the whole point, because it was funny watching that in real time, because this is actually what I was talking about earlier. Just having this conversation, people bring a lot of assumptions into it, and they assume what is going to be said next, and it's not always true. So that's
right. Like for example, I can say there's a problem with white males that nobody is really paying attention to, or not nobody, but a few people. And I can believe that's true, but I can also believe that actually there's also a crisis that's been going on for a long time with young black men and them getting imprisoned at a ridiculously high rate. That's a problem too. Like, I can believe both of these things are problems, and I don't have to compare which one is bigger or worse, because honestly, like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're a black man who's been pulled over because you've got a little bit of marijuana in your pocket on your possession, and you get charged with a felony or something and thrown in prison, like, that's a big problem for you. But equally so, if you're a 25-year-old male who's lost his job and you're struggling to stay out of depression and to try to get your feet back under you, I mean, that's a big problem too. Like, it's all contextual. So it's stupid, but you're exactly right. That's the society where we have to somehow measure all of these problems and these crises against one another, and that's stupid. It's people going through pain, and when you're the person in pain, it hurts, and it hurts enough that it doesn't matter that someone else might have more pain. Like, who cares about measuring that? Let's just help people. So
right, and that's one of the things that's interesting about some of these some of the reactionary movements that pop up. For example, like the men's rights activists, where they bring up points where it's not necessary. It's not about comparative issues. There are issues. For example, the men's rights activists would say there are issues with men. It's not about comparing the issues of men against the issues of women and trying to decide who is more important at this point in time. It's like, we're here to deal with issues of men, this group of people, and then other people are there to deal with issues from other groups. And the comparative suffering for determining who gets attention is not the correct approach, is what you're saying. Because
absolutely right.
Because for the person suffering, all that matters for them is that they're having trouble, right? It doesn't really matter how their trouble rates on some sort of stack or scale. That's not important if you're looking for work and you can't find it because of an opinion. And we can even take skin color or those sort of characteristics out of it. Let's say you wore the MAGA hat, right? Or you were at some place that other people determined you're at some political rally that other people determined you shouldn't be at, and now you can't get a job. And they're like, well, but you don't have the problem that this person has. That's not the right perspective. It's right. Yeah. So anyway, that's
right. It's a stunning problem, but to circle back around to this whole dad thing. I mean, so yeah. I mean, I think about that a lot. I mean, I think about and looking back in retrospect, my dad was hilarious. He was probably a little bit prescient in this sense, because I remember when I turned 18, my dad was like, when he found out one time I just turned 18, and he found out that I had gone over to this girl's house and her parents weren't home, and he was like, he straight up lectured me, like he pulled me aside and was like, you don't ever do that. You don't, because this could happen, because you could get in trouble, because she could say this, that you did that, and you don't want that, And like, he was straight up prescient about that, but because he was a cop, right? So he saw a lot of this happen in courtrooms and things like that, where stuff like this would happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's
guys
crazy.
Would get in trouble.
It's crazy because now that's a real thing. And it's not just like it's not an abstract real thing. It's becoming the predominant reality. We're moving towards the point where if you're alone with someone somewhere, then they can come out, especially, and this isn't about comparative, but right now the dynamic is if it's a man and a woman alone, at some point, what the woman determines later, and then says happened or says her perspective was even years removed from the incident, suddenly becomes that's the truth, and the guy must be punished for what in many cases is even regret, like under Title IX you can, under certain circumstances, a person can revoke consent for sexual activity after the sexual activity. And so
Really?
it just, oh yeah, it's hilariously crazy.
That's weird.
But
well, I mean, so to me, there's a big difference between consent and regret. And honestly, like, we've all done things that we regret the next day, and but that that doesn't undo what you did. Like you both people in a consensual sexual encounter have to take, I think, responsibility for that to whatever degree, right? And and that's, I mean, that's a dad lesson. So like, for me, thinking about my kids, my boys, it's like raising them so that they take responsibility even for the crap that happens to them, right? Like, this is what I meant earlier when I was getting a little bit abstract about, like, when people try to take power from you, you're not making it about power, where it's like, there are going to be people who are going to mischaracterize you and mistreat you or whatever, and you can either give them the power over you to become the victim and to, oh, look at what happened to me, look what they did, or you can just take responsibility for whatever part you played in that, and you can own it and you can walk past it. And I think that's part of the solution to this sort of thing, where when people realize that, yeah, bad crap happens to us, but like, it's not happening to us in a vacuum. And so what's my responsibility?
I think it's funny that you're going to have to give your kids the same speech your dad gave you.
Oh yeah. Funny and terrifying, man.
It is. It is.
And also, and let's just be real, like, and also, and not just like, oh, be careful which girls you hang out with, but like the world is just a different place now. So it's kind of like, well, maybe be careful with anybody and where you go and what you do, and like, and that's a weird thing, because you don't want your kids being like ultra suspicious of everybody, so you don't want to be like, everybody's out to, screw you over. But at the same time, equipping them to realities of like, well, like, there are people who will take advantage of you or whatever. So that's a big part of it. I mean, that and frankly, like, let's just like what male sexuality is in general. Like, let's just say, like, that is in itself a big issue, right? Like, what, when you say I'm a man, what does that even mean? When you say, like, being a good man, what does that mean? Being a good dad, does that mean anything different than being a good mom? Does it mean anything different than being a good person? What does it mean to raise boys to be good men? Or should you just say, just raise them to be good people, And, I didn't really think too much about those sorts of things until I actually had a son. So.
Right. I've got, so part of the show is people pay to either make comments or ask questions. So I'm going to read through some of those right now, and you can respond to any of them that you want. Or some of them will be jokes or whatever, so they, might not.
Okay.
Anyway, Fairy Tale Master says, "Hey Nick, won't be able to catch you live, but always enjoy your shows and epic rants. Did you check your Twitter DMs? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the new word I came up with to describe Kick Vic, Dataku. Dataku. I don't know what that means, so I'll have to go look it up." I'll have to look at my Twitter DMs. No, I haven't seen it, because all weekend I was just pretty much it was hard to be on my phone because I was talking with people the entire time. Rekieta says hot dogs. How much ketchup do you put on a hot dog?
Me?
Yeah. Do you put ketchup on hot dogs?
An equal amount with mustard.
So you put ketchup and mustard on a hot dog?
And not too much, because if you bite into it and it like splooges out onto your shirt, you failed.
Yeah, that's gross. But no,
Yeah.
See, this guy does not like ketchup on his hot dogs. He thinks that's.
But
he thinks that's
I mean,
degenerate.
I can eat a hot dog without ketchup. I just don't want to.
I put 5 rows of ketchup on my hot dogs. Only for him. Only when he's around, though.
But these are the things that matter, like hot dogs. Like you remember that, was it Korean or Japanese, that place that we went to?
Yeah.
Uptown, and they had that fantastic hot dog. I don't think you had it, but I had it.
No, I had the one.
Like these gourmet hot dogs.
I had the one with the avocado and the egg on top of it.
That's right, you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I had no idea hot dog could be like fancy cuisine.
Well, you've apparently never been to Chicago either, then. Because.
I had a hot dog, a Chicago dog, in the airport, on my way, like between a connecting flight. So
In the Chicago airport?
yeah, whatever. What's that called?
Okay. I don't know. Whichever.
Can't remember it right now, but
O'Hare, Chicago O'Hare.
O'Hare. Yeah, O'Hare. That's right. Yeah. So we were running, to catch a flight, and I saw this hot dog vendor, and I'm like, Steph, I got to stop here and grab this thing. And so my party, people I was with, ran up ahead, and we were luckily not late for our plane, but like I was with a church group of people and some other friends and whatnot, and I was like, I got to stop up here.
The avocado and egg hot dog is triggering the chat a little bit, so it was delicious.
Is it really?
Well,
it's a weird combination.
Because you don't mess with you. For some people, you can't mess with hot dogs. Like you just can't do it. Which is fine, except that I'm waiting for someone to show me the art of the hot dog. That's what I need. You guys need to. I need a Steven Crowder table that says hot dogs deserve ketchup. Change my mind, and then I need people to come bring me hot dogs. That's what I need.
The art of hot dog. That's amazing.
Patrick L says 7 minutes of deadly sins, late and very gay. Nick. Sorry, if I'm late, it's late and gay. That's the thing. Darth Grumpy says, you should also try Robert McCammon, Mark Tufo, or Brian Lumley. McCammon is pretty close to King's work. Have you read any of them?
Okay. No.
What about Lee Beard?
I stick mostly with the old books, so...
No, you need to read Lee Beard's Radio Nowhere. And then you need to put it in your classroom.
Okay.
Yeah. It's on Amazon.
I'm writing it down.
It's on Amazon. Buy Lee Beard's Radio Nowhere immediately. Do it.
Okay.
Demanding it. You should also... are you going to... Wait a minute. Hold on. Are you going to have any Warhammer books in your little library? Your little cute library thing.
I hadn't thought of that, but I might have to, just in your honor, actually. You might have to get a couple of special ones, if there are a couple ones you would recommend.
Oh yeah, I could recommend some that aren't like, a 30-book series, for example, that are just standalone good ones.
Right.
You better,
for sure.
You better do that. What is this? How dare you? To Kill a Mockingbird.
One Warhammer book that you recommended like 10 years ago, man, and it was actually, I liked it. It was fine. I just To
Kill a Mockingbird with a chainsword. That's what it should be.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Well, yeah, and on steroids, right?
Well, no, they're not steroids. It's an augmented organ that makes your body produce like a second heart and all that stuff.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Nick Sex says, I've been following you since the lawsuit, loving your Vic videos, and recently got caught up on your boy Zach. I don't have the time and money to go to law school, so what ways can I get involved to improve the legal system? Oh boy. Talk to your congresspeople. Talk to your congresspeople. And by the way, lawyers are not always the experts on legal issues. If there's a legal issue you're passionate about, do a lot of reading, be an advocate for it.
Yeah.
That's not restricted to lawyers. And as you guys have seen, many lawyers are abject morons. They're running around like idiots all day long. So don't ever get stuck thinking that lawyers are smart. Largely they're not. Okay. TYTY210 says, hey, was just wondering if there's any way to donate books as well. So is there a way to donate books rather than if some people don't have money but they have a bunch of books? Would they be able to do that?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we could talk afterwards and figure out like what the best way for that would be. I kind of, to some extent, it kind of depends on what the books are. Like, if because I'm bringing him into a classroom that in a school that I don't own, of course, I do have some degree of like sorting out what should be and what shouldn't be in there, and so I'm open to it. Yeah, it kind of depends on the books though. So if maybe people who wanted to do that had maybe a list or some pictures or something, I could sort through those and then let them know.
Okay, so the easy way to do that for now is to email me if you have books that you would like to donate or a list of books or something like that. Email me and I can work on. We'll figure out a way to get any of those books to Heath here. Anthony Tupin, hey buddy, what's going on? He says, want to really scare them? Get some Friedman, Hayek, and Mises on those shelves. What kind of books are you? Because you teach English literature. So are you going to have like? Is it fiction books, nonfiction books? Will there be like? I mean, Milton Friedman, right? Are you going to have economic treatises on the shelf? I think some would actually be pretty engaging for some kids.
It's it'll be nonfiction and fiction, and a wide range. The biggest key would be books that are appealing to kids. So I'm going to try to hit a good mix of classic books that are still engaging and relevant, but also like newer books too. And I mean, these are high school kids, and so 9th, 10th grade kids. So there's going to be a limit in terms of the depth that they're going to want to get into. And my goal with the library wouldn't be to have like a ton of like really hard or really high level books. It's mostly they call them like engaging books or leveled reading books that are high interest. That's the other term that people in education use. So part of it isn't even just content wise. Part of it is just like, is this a book that's going to appeal to a young person? And so that's probably, I think, the main criteria. But I hope to have a whole variety.
Perfect.
And, yeah.
Ryan Mercado says, Nick, unbelievable. You are extremely late and gay. Time for you to go to the special housing unit. That sounds terrifying. Fatal System Air says, hey, Nick, missed a couple of your streams. It's been a wild week and a half for me, and I've never felt more fortunate. My fiance and I are going to buy a house with the money, a better place to help raise our son. I am grateful. Hey, awesome, man. Congratulations. Creeper Weirdo says, my sister-in-law and my family can't talk about politics at all. It's sad because she is a baby girl and we want to be the larger part of her life, but eventually she will have questions about the world and everything. We're Christian and so is she, but there is still a massive divide. Yeah, I don't. So how do you approach sister-in-law and family can't talk about politics at all? Yeah, I don't know. I think personally, I got tired of fighting with family members about politics, and to the point where I try to avoid any political discussion with family members, even when I agree with them. Even when I agree with them in their politics, because one, it's just not how I want to spend time with my family, and two, the possibility of division amongst people I actually like is too high. I don't know about you, but like whenever anybody brings up anything political at a family gathering, I'm just like, you know what? Can we talk about anything else? Can we talk about
Right.
you, or like your family, or any like what's going on in your life? I mean, I guess that would only
Yeah.
if they were a politician, it'd be different. But
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have a similar practice. I mean, I just there are just things that I just try to make it about what we're doing now and people and what's going on in their lives. But and it's hard too when you're an in-law. I mean, in-law relationships are tricky, and I always felt like I don't have a whole lot of foundation or ground to stand on if I go into this family that I'm just sort of in because of a marriage or something, and then start telling them, politics and whatnot. So I tread really lightly on that stuff. And I suppose if they asked me, I would maybe consider talking about things, but I kind of pick battles with that too. So I think I'm like you.
yeah. Let's see. Dias Striker says, as a pharmacist I work with made the suggestion of pressing sexual harassment charges against a customer after he asked her advice on an issue with his ability to urinate. God help my 2 sons. Wow.
Yeah, that's rough. Well, I don't know. I mean,
How do you?
God, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say to that. That's a scary thing.
So how do we deal with
Lately,
that?
I've just been.
Because
So
like
what?
it's our job to figure out how to deal with that and how to equip our kids. Like, what do we tell them? I'm genuinely curious because, So, yeah, you probably know peripherally. I've been covering a case about a guy who's accused of all sorts of things that are not actually having sex with women. Like that's
Right.
he's accused of hugging fans and kissing them on the cheek or the forehead. Just like, hey, thanks for coming out. Kiss on the cheek or kiss on the forehead. He's accused of apparently having workplace interactions of some sort. Well, one workplace interaction where he says that there was a kiss that occurred in an office, right? So he allegedly goes to this office, says, "Can I kiss you?" According to his story, she says, "Close the door," and he goes in and gives her a kiss. And then according to her story, she says that he forced the kiss on her. But then after this kiss, there's nothing else. There's no follow-up accusation. There's nothing. So what do we make of this world where if you let's even be charitable and say he misread a cue. So you're a guy and you're into a woman or whatever, and you go up to her and you misread some cue and you think, okay, I've got my move. This is like the teen movie thing, right? They move in for the kiss and it's awkward, and like the one person said it was good, the other person is like, no.
Yeah. The yawn with the arm.
Yeah.
Oh, let's just put this around,
Right. How do we prep our kids for that, man? Like, what do we do?
Don't touch anyone.
Yeah, don't touch anybody.
I mean, honestly, I don't think the answer is much harder than just don't be a dirtbag and be respectful.
But what is a dirtbag? Because like literally in this case, not a few people are saying that this guy's a dirtbag because when someone comes up to his table at a convention, he gives them a hug and maybe a kiss on the cheek. So I get what you're saying with not being a dirtbag, but what if that is the behavior that people are using to classify you as a dirtbag? Like, to me, that's just a...
Right, okay.
That's just a thing. Like, if... when I meet people, all this weekend, I hugged all sorts of people. Hugging left and right. Serial assault hugs. Just flying all over the place. I didn't get consent from many people to give them a hug. It's like, hey, here, you go in for a hug. And then that's the nonverbal communication happens of, they reciprocate, right? But so many people would say, based on that behavior, that I am a dirtbag. And unironically, if they're being consistent.
Okay, have we ever hugged? Have you and I ever hugged?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe at my wedding, maybe.
Sure.
But I mean, I'm not a hugger.
You're not, but you know, but I think no, I've definitely definitely at your wedding, or well, at the before the wedding,
before the wedding pictures or something like that. Yeah, it was.
Right.
Oh, it felt good. Oh, it was a good, It's a good thing. No, I don't like to be hugged. I'm not a hugger. So I don't know. I've not had, you know, my own personal experience. So
but if
background. But I was raised in a pretty strict sort of fundamentalist sort of Christian background, which I think kind of in some ways, you know, matured past. But like it was. I mean. For me, it was like, if you look at that girl wrong, if you touch her wrong, like you are going straight to hell. So I had the fear of hellfire in me. So like there were probably hundreds of cues from women, from young girls, you know, not young girls, that is a horrible thing. Young women, young ladies growing up, you know, as I was in my dating years, you know, in college and whatnot, in high school, that I probably missed tons of cues. Like I wasn't even really looking for the cues because I just didn't want to go to hell, you know? So maybe that's the solution. Just
make your children fear human touch. Like human touch is brimstone.
That's right. Yeah, no, that's unhealthy, you know, but I mean, for me though, that was I never really struggled with that problem just because I was always the one, like I was the last, that was the last thing that I would do, you know. I would make sure we were going steady before it's like even putting my arm around a girl or something. And, you know, but that was just, I mean, that was mostly my background being raised. Huh?
So what are you, from 1951? Oh my goodness.
I know, right? Yeah, no, I'm literally blast from the past. Yeah, it's, but I mean, people aren't like that anymore. You know, I mean, I see, you know, like just my students, and it's the way that, you know, girls interact with girls, and even girls and guys, but guys and guys, you know, there's a whole lot of like, there's a whole lot more touching than I remember as a kid. You know, I'm not saying in an inappropriate way, but I mean, you know, they're just like, you know, they're girls are holding each other's hands, or they're, you know, doing each other's hair. But even guys, you know, will be like, you know, they'll give each other hugs, or they'll like, you know, kind of hang out, and like some of it's razzing, like in the way that guys do. But I mean, the trouble with that is, you know, back in the day, all of that stuff just used to be kind of like, oh yeah, you know, that's the sort of thing you do in a locker room. You know, slap the guy's butt or something like that.
That's different.
After the sports.
What are you talking about?
You know what I'm saying?
That's not a hug.
I'm talking about but I'm talking about like,
I throw out hugs, man. I don't run around spanking dudes. That's not my.
But you know what I'm saying? Like you're, you know, weren't you ever on a sports team? Didn't you ever have like a coach slap your butt on the way out?
No.
Like, go get him.
My coach was my dad. My dad is not a butt slapper.
Well, what can I say? What can I say? But I mean, like, but there's all sorts of that stuff going on, and things that we were used to as a kid that, you know, now would be really looked down upon, you know. And so I don't know. I don't have a great solution for that, but I think part of it, I think the thing you'd have to be really careful of it, because the last thing I want my kids to do is to go out into the world with some sort of fear, right? Like some sort of assumption that like everybody, like you got to be careful, you're walking on eggshells if you touch someone the wrong way. Like I don't want them to live in that, with that mentality, right? Like I want them to be confident and respectful, of course, but like I want them to, you know, I don't want them to be like just constantly trying to avoid, you know, offending anybody. And that's a tricky sort of thing, because in a culture of, in a culture of offense, when everybody's geared to be offended, I think it takes some courage to be offensive to some extent, but obviously you can't do that in such a way that you're going to get convicted or accused of some sort of crime, like sexual crime. So, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. That's a stupid answer. I feel bad about it. Sorry.
You should. Go back in time and undo it. How dare you?
It's forever though. It's on the internet. Forever.
Yeah, it is. It is. You'll forever lose, and you'll be thinking about butt slapping and all of this stuff. This slap buttery.
But you know what I was trying to talk about? Like I was trying to say, like there were ways in the past that people would that they would have physical contact with each other that are now like no way. Like I would never. Like I would never think of doing that to the kids that I coach. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not a. Yeah.
Well, I would.
That's not a thing that you
I wouldn't have thought about it back then. Personally, like if a coach slapped my butt, I might kill him.
Yeah. But I would have been like super. It would have been like, wow, that was weird, Yeah. But I mean, it happened. I mean, and a lot of people don't really give it a thought. I don't know. It's. But I think maybe part of that is just that's what our kids are going to have to do, is they're going to have to be rethinking through, like, what are the ways that I touch people? Like, I mean, and we start to do this to some extent, but like, when you've got like toddlers and young boys, little boys, and it's like, there's certain ways of, I mean, there's ways that you touch people, and there's ways that you want people to touch you, and there's ways that you don't. Like, and it sounds a little bit weird to phrase it like that, but
no, but I was gonna bring this back to what you said earlier about how you're not much of a hugger, and so you really didn't have a lot of hugging interactions with other people, isn't that? But that's probably a large part because you're not much of a hugger, right? So right. Certainly there were times where someone went in for a hug and you're like, or like, they kind of start walking towards you and you back up maybe. You also mentioned you're an introvert. So like that interpersonal interaction is something that we as people have developed and we read into that very actually intuitively. And so that's what gets me is not the idea that everyone that hugging everyone is not a big deal. Because if someone, if you go to hug someone, they say, no, thank you. Well, then don't hug somebody. If you go to shake someone's hand and they pull their hand away, don't shake their hand. What if they have herpes or AIDS or whatever? You don't shake herpes hands. Not a chance. Very dangerous. I learned that in Bible school. No,
I hate herpes hands.
But that's the difference, right? It is that there needs. This is where I find that this difference comes in big play. It's what you were saying about your raising your kids. You don't want them to live in fear that everything they do is unacceptable to the point where they withdraw from anything. Although that is some people's solution. Drexel, for example, talks about withdrawing from basically talking to women he doesn't know very well. Like he just doesn't do it. He doesn't interact with people who might be a threat to him. And that's just part of it. But so you don't want your sons, what you're saying is you don't want your sons to have to live in fear, and you want them to be respectful. But part of that is the ability to read and engage with people at the level that they're comfortable with without having to have a written contract about it, right? Like you don't need a lawyer to govern these interactions. But I have a fear that as a society, we're going to move towards this place where we take away that interpersonal read. We remove that from the equation because people, I guess, just can't do it right. So we have to default to say no shaking hands, because if hugging is sexual, what isn't? Like what goes? I mean, to me, hugging has always been such a platonic display of affection that like when you get to a certain age, your parents like don't kiss you anymore or whatever, but you still hug them. It's like okay, that's like the always been like the safest affection that has nothing to do with it. But
right.
So what do we?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, what do we do about that? How do we balance and equip? Do we fight back? Like, do we just accept that that's where society's going, or do we fight back? And do we fight back by through our children? Like, what do we do?
I mean, personally, I think so. Fighting back, I guess I don't. Maybe so. What I'm more reluctant to do would be to just cave in to every societal demand. Like just because there's some sort of new movement, and then we say, oh, here's this new standard, or here's this new thing. No more hugging. Like just because that's the sort of like banner that people are flying. I don't think we have to buy into that. I think that there are a lot of very sort of basic respect behavior sort of things, and I think to some extent maybe part of that resistance is just holding to certain norms of like, no, actually, like people used to hug all the time, and that didn't necessarily mean a sexual thing, and
now what if you
teaching
hump
kids
while
to read
hugging?
body language, you know what I'm saying? Like, but being people who make the case for like, no, like we can do these things without crossing lines.
What if you're like me and when you give a hug, you actually hump the person?
Yeah, like if you're going in for the little cupping in the back, yeah,
no, like I go in for the hug, and then once I've locked them in, I wrap my legs around them and hump up and down. I feel like that's not sexual though. It's literally.
How long does it take you to hug a crowd, man? Like if you've got a line of people, this is like a 20-second hug.
20-second, man, you underestimate the length of hump.
Well, a very fast hump.
Yeah, is it?
That's awesome.
What if you don't look at them while you do it? What if you look over their shoulder?
Just deep eye contact? You don't want the deep eye contact?
No
like
eye contact.
As you're just like intensely.
No eye contact.
You don't do that?
All. No. Why would you look at someone you're hugging and humping?
I don't know. I mean, why wouldn't you though? If you're gonna. Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard question. I would say no hugging and humping. Like, I think those are two separate, not equal activities.
I guess.
That you should.
So taking the joke a little bit serious, can you, like, what? I feel like there is a non-sexual hump, right? Like the joke hump or whatever.
What?
No, but okay. So obviously context to everything matters. So like there are people who do things out of comedy, right? Or friends who have certain expectations. What point does that line stop? I don't know. It's a weird thing to think about, that we're measuring every human interaction and trying to apply a standard to it. But that's what we're doing. We're trying to standardize all of it.
But so the thing that you're talking about, though, is like a joke amongst friends with really deep trust, right? So the solution then is, having the, like, knowing how to contextualize, like, well, I have this relationship with this person, and maybe this would be appropriate because they would understand. Or I don't have that relationship with this person, and but then learning to build deep trust with people. I think that's and honestly, like, so going back to kids, it's like when I was talking about not wanting them to be afraid, I think the part of that is I want them to be able to form deep connections and build deep trust with people. Not obviously everybody, but with some people in their life, where they can feel free to be whoever they are, and to, not worry about like whether they're going to screw up in some sort of social faux pas. And I think that, I think we have to train our kids to do that, to have those relationships, and to not be going into everything, where you're measuring all of this stuff and you're expecting people to live up to certain standards, because, I feel like growing up in high school, I was never like a popular kid. I was the kid who tried to like fly under the radar. But that was always the fear of like, you're going to do something that's going to embarrass you in front of other people. And the stakes back then were just embarrassment, so now maybe they're so much higher. And it wasn't until much later that, you start getting a little bit more confidence to not only navigate, but to read those situations and then to create relationships where you have that trust level to be who you are and to let yourself who you actually are kind of come out. And I mean, I think we need that. Like, I think maybe we do need the hug with hump, the dry hump hug, whatever you want to call it, the dry hump hug.
So do you just
dry hug?
Is it like do you get like was it Command and Conquer Red Alert like loudspeaker like deploy dry hump like immediately? Do we do that all the time? No. Anyway, Nova Zero says I just remembered Power of One. So that's a book recommendation, I believe. Power of One. I don't know who wrote it.
All right.
Nikki Rackett's A Series of Unfortunate Filings When. Well, we'll see. We'll see how this Vic case turns out. Maybe then I'll write a book. Got all day training. You're keeping me up and through it. Thanks, guys. Hey, you're welcome, buddy. Enjoy your training. That's fun. Blaine20 says, The Spellwright Trilogy by Blake Charlton is a magic/fantasy story about a young dyslexic wizard inspired by the author's own dyslexia. I only got to read the first, but it was really, really good. So,
interesting. I'm writing some of these down.
Brandon Temmel says, "Hey guys, hey, what's up, Brandon? I recognize your name. How do you?
Hey, Brandon, I know you.
How do you
He's a good guy.
I think so. How do you effectively discipline your children without anger or yelling? Let's not be presumptuous, my friend.
The trick is Hulk. It's what Hulk said. It's that I'm always angry.
When I have kids, I'd like to involve them in reflection and changing behavior, but I know that's really idealistic even when they are older. You know what? Here's what I'll say. You should always strive to approach your children rationally and without anger. But also, when you do approach your children angry, that's going to happen. You're a human. You'll have anger at some point in your life. And forgive yourself and move on and try not to it the next time. But how do you effectively discipline your children? It involves time. That's the hardest part, for me at least, is that disciplining without anger involves time, and the anger is an ineffective, often, shortcut to the point where you gripe at a kid or yell at them a little bit rather than sit down and try and get them to understand what happened. And some of that is because at the time you just need them to listen. And that's a hard thing to do when you're under stress or whatever. So here's what I'll say. Children, don't hurt your kids. Really don't hurt your kids. And that should always be, at least in my opinion, that should be at the forefront of your mind. Don't hurt your kids. And I don't just mean physically, right? Don't hurt your kids. Don't belittle them. But when you fail, remember that your children are resilient, and their children are always smarter than you think they are. They're always better able to cope than you think they are, and that's because they have to be. So,
children are anti-fragile. Right.
So, do you have anything to add to that? Like, do you have any techniques?
I mean, I agree. I think when what you were talking about, don't hurt them. Like I was, being like I said, coming from a kind of a Christian fundamentalist background, and I say that with all the love for that sort of thing, but but spanking was like, you get spanked if you go out of line. But we don't, like, I don't spank my kids. And there's research out there that shows that spanking can be it can affect children traumatically, just like actual abuse, like physical abuse, where you're trying to hurt someone, trying to hurt your child. And so, but it comes back to this idea of power and control. And I think that, when you react to a child or to anyone, and you're just angry and you want them to just comply, that's a power struggle. And for me, I'm always wanting to find ways to avoid that. Like, I don't want to get into a power struggle with my 6-year-old because I know he's probably going to win, or he's going to be more stubborn than I am patient because I've got to go to this thing and we've got to get in the car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you said, it takes time. And, for me, my favorite adults were people, when I was a kid, my favorite adults were people who talked to me like I was a person, like an adult, not talking down to me like I'm a kid, like, oh, hey, how you doing there, little, that's dumb, and kids don't respect that. And so, I think this works with any age, but especially with kids. If you're talking to them, like you said, rationally and just like you would any other human being, and you assume that they're able to understand you, and obviously, you're speaking at, appropriate level to them. But like, I give my kids choices, and so I'll frame the choice in the way that gets them to do what I want them to do. But I will give them a choice, and I'm not trying to fight them, but I am trying to give them agency to see. Yeah, like, these are things you're going to have to do, and ultimately you're going to have to be the one to make the choice to do that. And right now you have me to help you make that choice and to make a good one, but someday you won't. So I'm training you to make choices. And so, if you're framing everything through that lens of trying to give them autonomy, trying to make the problem theirs and to give them the responsibility for that solution, they become competent people who aren't worried about, who aren't going to get into these power struggles, but they're competent. And this reminded me of something earlier. We were talking about like appropriate touch with kids. And I didn't get this. This was something I read a long time ago, but I've also heard people like Jordan Peterson talk about the importance of play. And so, like, with my kids, if any of the people following this are parents of boys, wrestle with your boys. Like, get down on the floor and beat them up for a little bit in a playful way, because what you're doing there is you're teaching them.
Teacher advocates the beating of children live.
Yeah, you want to get down and right. You want to get down and wrestle around with them, and push them around a little bit in a gentle, safe way. But part of what you're doing there is you're teaching them boundaries of touch and of behavior and of play and of how do you interact? Like, how do you get into a situation and make it enjoyable for both people, where you're not threatening them, they're not threatening you, you're not hurting them, and that's the art of play. And that is an essential thing. And I mean, I've seen a lot of psychologists recently talk about the importance of children learning to play. And I think, honestly, that as I'm thinking about this, maybe the most simple solution to any of these things is letting kids play and teaching them how to play in a fair way. Because, like, what play actually is just interacting in a way with other people so that you'll have another game, so that you'll have people want to come back and play with you again tomorrow. Like, that's the main goal of play. It's not to crush you and win so that I beat you and I'm the uncontested winner all the time and you just hate playing against me because I always win. It's like the goal of play is this mutual benefit. And I think kids who know how to do that well, I don't think they'll have a problem navigating how do you treat somebody, when you're 25 and there's a tricky situation with a girl or with a guy. You know what I mean?
Simple answer, wrestle them.
I don't know. But so I think wrestle with your kids. I think it's simple, man.
You missed my joke. Made me sad.
I didn't hear it. What was the joke?
You said when there was a tricky situation when they're 25, and I said simple answer, wrestle them. You just wrestle them.
Oh, right. Yeah. You're saying you don't wrestle with your dad?
Right now? I mean, I always win. No, so here's another part of it that I think is really important with discipline in particular is and someone mentioned consistency in the chat, and part of which I agree, consistency.
Yeah.
But also part of consistency is setting expectations as the kids are age appropriate and able to comprehend cause and effect as they grow older. Is that you set an expectation that a particular behavior will lead to a particular consequence, and so long as you set that expectation, the child is making the choice to engage in the consequence, and sometimes they will. But that really depends on. Now, I'm not saying like the expectation is, listen, if you do this, I'm going to kick you in the face. That's not what I'm saying here. But with, for example, with discipline, where you're taking away some activity, or you're sending the child to do some other activity that they might not want to do. Like if it's to go, my wife used to, when she was younger, used to have to go, if they ever said they were bored, they'd be sent outside to go pick up sticks in the yard. They'd have to go pick up a certain amount of sticks or do it for a certain amount of time. And that became an expectation to the point where, to this day, she thinks about when she's ever about to say, I'm bored, that would be a consequence. That she would have to go do this. It's like, well, you're bored, you got time, go do this thing. So setting those expectations and not engaging in discipline that the child would be completely caught off guard by is a big part of that consistency. So I just wanted to add that in, because you don't want to just like, your kid does one thing, it's like, oh, I'm taking away all your toys and donating them. Yeah, that's a bit much.
You have to you have to give them a few chances or opportunities. But I would say also, though, it's not about making threats. Like, the problem is, and this is something that teachers have to learn too, is, you want to avoid power struggles, but you also don't want to make threats that you can't keep or that you have no intention of keeping. And so that's why it's better to, if I've got if my 6-year-old is got a problem, if he's doing something wrong, like I'll say something like, that's a bummer, man. I can't believe you did that. That's not right. So what do we do now? What do you think? And I'll throw the ball back to him to come up with some consequences. And I've already talked to him, and I've already modeled consequences before. And if he needs help, I'll say, you hit your brother in the face. Do you think that was a good idea? Well, no. Okay, so what do you think you need to do now? Go say sorry? Yeah, that's fantastic. Why don't you do that? What else can you do? Give him a hug? For sure, But, like, I'm not threatening him. I'm not, like, giving him an ultimatum that he can test, because kids will always push and test. And so, ultimatums are stupid. They don't work. And, the solution is then just to put the problem and the solution into the kids' hands. And you can do that actually at a pretty early age, like even around, 3 or so, 2.5 and 3, they're starting to figure out some of these consequences. But didn't Brandon also have like a thing about remaining calm?
Well, he said without anger or yelling. But I wanna go to that because someone, Marty, my man Marty says, if you push your little brother into the street one more time, I'm going to withhold positive reinforcement, little Billy /barf, which is very funny. And it's true though. There are times when anger and urgency might be necessary for safety. And you can't get hung up on it's your kid's running towards the street. It's like, now think about what you're doing before you do that. No, sometimes it's just like stop, or you have to physically grab and restrain them. That's all part of it. And obviously that's not something you you play around with.
Right.
But remember, this is,
I would say
okay, go ahead. No, I
was just going to say a real short aside, to that point. I think though, and I don't know about you, because I don't know if our parents did it as much, but definitely the millennial generation. So that's the generation kind of pigeonholing you and me, and then after us.
How dare you?
The generation of the millennials.
Anywhere near it. No, I'm way older than a millennial.
You are, yeah. But that generation, they like helicopter parents were a huge thing. And I think, if anything, parents today, young parents, their tendency is to be too worried about danger that's like really minor, right? Like if your kid's running into the street and there's a car coming, for sure, like do whatever you need to do to get them to stop or to grab them, right? But if they're running into the street and there's no car, do you really need to yell at them? Do you, like, no, you go over, hey, stop, come back here. What did you just do? Did you see what you just did? Like I think there's the tendency for people to overreact, that danger is around every corner and under every rock. And I see parents do this all the time, and it's like, oh my gosh, watch out, be careful with that. And it's like, they'll figure it out, right? It's like, they're not going to die because they, because they, I don't know, whatever you want to say, like because they're using something the wrong way, or they're getting into something. I think we have to be careful to not like overreact, because kids pick up on that. Like kids are always looking to us to see whether something is okay or whether something is dangerous. And if we're constantly positioned to be like overreacting, like, oh my gosh, that's so dangerous, I can't believe you're carrying that cup of, water. It's like, then the kid will be just terrified of everything. But
maybe they need a healthy fear. Maybe they need a healthy fear. Healthy fear of everything.
Some of it, yeah.
No, not some of it. All of the fear. Listen, the only time you need to be a helicopter parent is if your kids are commies. Okay? And then they get a free ride. Right. That's how it goes. Hold on. Blaine20 says, I tagged you regarding a video of a debate wherein John Michael Kelly cried like a baby while being told that he's a whiny, pestering weirdo. I'm only bringing it up because John Michael Kelly is a bratty, whiny baby. Have you ever heard of John Michael Kelly?
Me? No.
Yeah. Okay, good. So you're just like the other 7 billion people on the planet. That's good.
I don't know who this is.
No. It's a long story. Yeah. Oh God. See, you're not. That's too deep a lore for you. Right. I missed
I'm done. I'm out with that.
Count Camp says, "Dad jokes for the dad god. Please enjoy this joke. Whoever stole my copy of Microsoft Office, I will find you. You have my word." Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Oh, Thank you. Man. I love dad jokes so much. I can never remember them, though, I just laugh at them.
Wait a minute. Hold on. What kind of dad are you? You said you can't remember. You are the dad jokes. They emanate from your pores.
Dad jokes.
Oh, you're saying you can't remember the dad jokes that you just told. Like you told your kid a dad joke, and then now you don't remember what it was. Okay. I thought you were saying like you had to remember from like a repository to bring them up in real time to your kid, which that's the opposite of how dad jokes work.
Well, because I've always been bad at, I can't remember jokes. Like some people have about 1,000 jokes and they can just tell you a joke, and I just can't remember jokes. I don't remember them. So, but I am a joke. Like I am the dad joke, and I do it in class. Like with my students, I'm goofy. I like being a dad. It's fun.
So
not
what
ashamed of it.
Is dad joke? Is that will that eventually be offensive? Is that going to be a problem at some point? Will it be problematic to have dad jokes?
Well, are there mom jokes? So
I mean, I have.
Why don't moms?
I have some,
why
but
don't moms get jokes?
They do. They have. I mean, they get jokes.
Probably not flattering ones.
Why would you say that?
I don't know.
I don't know. What would a mom joke even be?
Like, is super competent, able to handle 17 things at once
while
managing
now you're
5 children and cooking dinner at the same time?
That's a joke about moms. But dad jokes aren't jokes about dads. Dad jokes are jokes that dads tell that everybody loves to hate.
Right. I don't know. I think moms are just too good for it. I don't think they're, there's something about when you I think dad jokes come from a confidence that you don't even have to try that much. Like you're just amused with yourself and your own life. Like, you're just confident. You don't need to worry about it. So you can say stupid things and then think it's funny. I don't know. Where do dad jokes come from?
From dads. That's where they come from.
Yeah, no, I know. But I mean,
a dad joke is just like an opportune pun that dispirits everybody in the room.
It's a pun. Yeah, but it's a pun born out of my confidence of, like, being a dad. I'm cool enough, like, or I've transcended the desire or need to be cool, so I can make a dad joke, and I don't have to worry about social repercussions.
That's too much. That's too deep. That's way too deep. The dad joke is just
so deep.
You have earned, by nature of creating life, you have earned the right to make a joke that makes everybody else annoyed.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
How do you...
It's part of the mantle.
Right. Yes Man 2044 says, this is my 5th super chat. Hey, thanks, buddy. Thanks 5 times, I suppose.
5. Wow.
So, there you go. Well, I have a bunch more chats to read, but before we get into those, I wanted to know if you had any particular topics you wanted to talk about, because they'll probably take us through to the end of the show.
No, I'm just here for I'm enjoying the ride. I'm, I don't have anything pressing on my head.
Well, you took your hat off.
I did.
See, that was a dad joke. That was a dad joke. I've earned the right to make that dad joke by having children. That's it. That's all it took.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, having kids, though, is weird. I don't know. And do we need to talk more about dad stuff?
We could talk about whatever you want.
Well,
I mean,
I don't read a couple more chats, and then let's see where they take us. I'm curious.
Okay. See,
because I'm not seeing this. You're
not seeing the chats? Oh yeah, because
I turned it off. Yeah.
Well, that's probably a good thing. Don't read. No, if you're an amateur, don't read the chat. You got to be a professional to read the chat while listening, and it's a skill. It's a skill.
Yeah. I get it.
Let's see. Kay says, if a man assaults and robs a person, but that person has AIDS and intentionally infects the assailant with the disease, who is more in trouble with the law? The person robbing. The person robbing and assaulting is more in trouble, typically speaking. Redacted says, caffeine has a diuretic effect, as might some of the other ingredients, but the amount of liquid it contains overcomes the loss caused by drinking Coke. I drank nothing but Diet Coke and alcohol for the last 15 years. No dehydration, only palpitations. Checkmate! Checkmate, you and your dehydrated drinks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
take that.
I don't know. I said it was from a meme. I'm not claiming this is like John Hopkins or something.
Because Johns Hopkins is talking about memes now. I think actually, I bet there's a paper from Johns Hopkins about memes.
Oh sure, probably. There's a paper about everything.
I keep reading. Yeah. I get headlines of the dumbest stuff. Oh, Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin is a topic that comes up on the show lots of times because I talk to people who get deplatformed from various money transferring sites, right? Like Patreon or PayPal, or why in God's name did that have to go off now? Patreon or PayPal or YouTube monetization, whatever. So they get thrown off. So then one of the solutions is Bitcoin. And I was reading my Google recommended news today, and New York Times has an article now about how Bitcoin is the funding choice of terrorists. So terrorists are using Bitcoin, and it's untraceable. Bitcoin's untraceable transferability to fund terrorism. So there you go, guys.
So if you use Bitcoin, you're a terrorist.
You
right?
will be. You will be.
That's the logic, right? Yeah.
Memes are. I think memes are white supremacy. I mean, they've been trying to do that for a while now, since they tried it with Pepe, right, the frog, Pepe the Frog
Yeah.
is a symbol of white nationalism rather than just a symbol of apathetic mockery, which that's how I always took it. But apparently, I just like the whites.
What wasn't the okay? So I just did the most dad thing. It's 1 o'clock, 1:11, and I just yawned.
Yeah.
That's how you know you're a dad.
Well, or that you have a
'Cause I'm
functional
like,
sleep
oh,
schedule.
Bedtime. Yeah, my sleep cycle isn't scheduled around your show, unfortunately. So
Why?
yeah. I don't know. I don't have anything much to say about memes other than I kind of hate them.
Why do you hate memes, though? No. Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. I know why you hate them. Because all the memes you're reading are from lefties who can't meme. The left cannot meme. So they're like, haha. Here's a lefty meme. 13% of Diet Cokes caused over 50% of dehydration. Right? That's the left's meme ability. Is that
It's like
yeah.
it's like a PSA.
Because you told me today about a meme that involved dehydration from soda. That's not a meme. That's boring.
It was a why you shouldn't drink Diet Coke, which, like, in terms of my beverages of choice, I like Diet Coke more than other sodas, but I don't drink much of it at all. Like I do, I do think that there are other better choices, but I don't know. Like my students make hilarious memes, like ridiculously funny memes. We were reading. What were we reading? We were reading. Was it Animal Farm? I think. And I had them do this thing where they had to post online and this little like discussion chat. And I was like, okay, you got to post like 1 or 2 answers, and they got to be serious. But then after that, you can post whatever you want and have fun with it. And like within a couple hours of that, the whole message board was just memes. Like it was just like giant. It was like 30,000 memes. These kids were just going back and forth, and they were making their own, and they were pretty funny, because that's what it is. Like it's meme culture. That's Generation Z or whatever that most recent generation is. Like that's how they communicate, is in memes.
But memes are funny relative to their spiciness, right? Like they have to be the right level of biting criticism. And it can't just be like, I don't even know. If memes aren't cracking you up on a daily basis, then you need an exorcism. What is wrong with you?
But okay, so that's the thing, is that I think memes properly used are funny, right? Like it's like that's what humor is for, is to help us look more honestly at ourselves. But the only way we can do it is by laughing a little bit. I think that's why memes. I think that's the most appropriate thing. But most of the memes I'm seeing are like, did you know that today we celebrated the first death of the largest the first iceberg's death in history or something like that. Like, that was the meme I actually kind of saw as something to that effect.
That's not a meme. That's sadness personified. Like what?
Yeah, but that's the sort of thing that gets passed around,
But that doesn't make it a meme. I mean, that might make it the literal definition of a meme, but who cares about that anymore?
The literal definition, right? Okay. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
What about the Virgin and Chad meme?
The what?
Have you seen the Virgin and Chad meme?
No.
Oh
I'll
my
look
God!
It up. Hold on.
Yeah.
Listen,
you're not on the internet enough for memes. See,
not enough.
You can't be on Facebook and getting memes, because if you go on Facebook, you're just getting boomer. You're not getting memes. You're just getting
Chad and the Virgin meme.
Yes. See,
I'll just go to knowyourmeme.com.
No, don't do that. Don't you dare. No, I will I'm going to put together a slideshow and I'll mail it to you. I'll mail you a VHS tape, you ridiculously old boomer.
I don't understand.
Well, that's apparent.
Let's see. Chad and the Virgin meme. Let's see. The Virgin Walk.
Oh my God. I'm gonna have to send you Chad and
like you can't see it because of the glare. Shoot, that sucks. All right.
No, I can't.
Yeah, send me
How
something.
did you
There's a
not
bunch of
find the
them, man,
Chad
but
and the
I don't
Virgin
know.
meme immediately?
The Virgin Autobot. The
Yeah. Okay. So this is a template, right? You've got the Virgin walk versus the Chad stride, the Virgin cartoon versus the Chad composition. This is how you meme. This is one meme, the Chad and the Virgin. But they're, and it's a template for comedy, but it's based in truth, because Chads are funnier than Virgins. They just are. But my favorite one is still the Virgin Islands versus the Chad Republic. That's great. That's the greatest thing. See, I'll have to just send you a list of memes, because you just don't know. Oh.
I wonder if I could send you a.
And never
I wonder
ever.
if I could send you a meme one of my students made, and see if it's funny.
I told you before, this is my fault. It's always the host's fault. I told you before the stream that there was very, very few rules to the stream, but one of the rules of the stream is do not ever mention ever again. This is worse than the N-word. Know your meme. Don't do it. Just garbage. Hot garbage.
Sorry. It's just a search result that came up. It's not like a site that I frequent.
Sure it is. Walk that one back.
That's right. It's just a backpedal. Yeah, I mean, no, I want to be an internet hermit. I don't like the internet. I don't know. But I can't quite do it. Like there's too much interesting stuff. I get sucked into it too much. So
yeah, that's the beauty of life. That's what I'm talking about see, you're here reading Tolstoy, right? And you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to contemplate through Dostoevsky. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to try and figure out what Victor Hugo is thinking." And then no, but like I'm joking, but I'm not. And this is something that's interesting to me, is that at some point memes are modern literature, right? It's highly condensed, it's highly specialized, but there's something to them that has gripped culture in a way that satire, like a satirical pamphlet, gripped culture 200 years ago. We have different distribution for it, and there's a whole lot you can do with it. But I think to ignore it is folly, because it really is. You've said it. Your students, the next generation, is communicating via meme. In an English literature class where they're being taught To Kill a Mockingbird, and they're talking about Boo Radley, suddenly they're memeing, like organically so. And they're creating it. It's the language of the next generation. And we have to understand that at some point it will be the language of the previous generation. And it will have value. Right. So I don't think you can be an internet hermit. I have to break you of this.
No, you're right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's true. And I mean, that's the reason I let them ultimately do that, because a few of them were like, because they would come up to me and they'd show me a meme and they'd be like, "Hey, check this meme out that I made. Can I post this on the discussion?" And I'm like, "Yeah, did you you already did what I wanted you to do." So yeah, it's a valid form of expression. In terms of how much we're going to be able to look back at things like this, I mean, who knows? But I think you're right. I don't think you can be like an internet hermit entirely. But for me at least, and this ties into being a dad. I've really tried to think about how am I responsibly interacting with the social media world, because there was a time where, I'm not necessarily happy to say this, but there have been times where I've been having discussions online, and I've been so invested in those that I wasn't necessarily fully present for my family, and so to me, that's one of the that's one of the growing pains that we're learning right now as a society is, we've got these incredibly addictive, incredibly interesting and useful technologies. How do we manage them well, and so, but we're not there yet. And so for me, it's not so much that I want to be a hermit as much as it's like, how can I manage this better and, try to utilize it in an effective way? Because I just don't, like, Twitter is not effective for political discussion. Facebook isn't effective. But we're always told, like, well, these are the platforms you need to be on if you want to affect change. And there's some truth in that. It's just, there's a trick to doing it.
Yeah. Oh, there absolutely is. But it's a tool. It's a tool.
For sure.
Political discussion on Twitter doesn't work because Twitter is the soundbite, but the soundbite is it's the hammer. It's the hammer, and the anvil is where your political discourse happens, and you use Twitter to get people to that discourse. Maybe Twitter's the reticle,
right,
or whatever.
Right.
It's the targeting system. But I want to go back to this meme thing a little bit, because, joking aside about know your meme, I'm mostly kidding, but joking aside about know your meme, it's great that you brought it up and that you found it, because you asked, well, how we go back, how we go back and look at this stuff and measure it. But know your meme exists. There's already an independent repository, and you may not be familiar with know your meme, but it's a pretty broad website that is basically a Wikipedia of various memes, how they evolved, where they started, and it's some of the work on it is pretty impressively sourced and well done. Now it's done by it's done in the same way Wikipedia is, so sometimes you get what you pay for. But right. The idea, though, is that there is a repository out there, at least one, that is recording these things and talking about how they evolve and why they evolved and what they meant and the change they impacted or affected. I mean,
so two questions in terms of your claim that memes can be literature. Okay, so number one,
memes are literature.
Are literature. Number one, so memes are incredibly deeply embedded in culture. Like, they're embedded in a specific phenomenon, which is why they're funny. So for future generations, how accessible will any particular meme be to, like, the average person?
How accessible is Dostoevsky to the average person?
Yeah, but the difference is that you can read Crime and Punishment or something, and you don't have to know everything about. You don't have to know everything about. Huh?
I was going to say, you can read Crime and Punishment, but a lot of people can't.
I see. Maybe some people can't. Probably
it takes a level of competence, training, and context to read Crime and Punishment, and to get meaning out of it. Now, or to get some meaning out of it. Anybody can pick up Crime and Punishment and get meaning, but there's a level of meaning that is the intent of the author in writing Crime and Punishment, and getting to Dostoevsky's intent is going to be vastly different endeavor than picking up Crime and Punishment and reading it. You're going to need context. You're going to need cultural information about Russia in the time he was writing it. You need that historical perspective to get into it, and that's going to be vast. I mean, imagine reading Crime and Punishment 100 years from now. It'll be very, very different. So I think there's. You were talking about how you have 11th graders that read at an 8th grade level. I know lawyers that read at a 4th grade level. You can find them on Twitter. The idea that you can do all this, and this is, now we're getting to a very big discussion. I don't know if we're gonna have time for it. That I was wanting to talk about is it's the idea that we can read into things with theoretical approaches that don't exist at the time of authorship, right? So you can read Dostoevsky with a feminist perspective, even a third wave feminist perspective, and you can try and extract meaning from it in that way, even though third wave feminism is obviously generations separated from Dostoevsky. So the same thing's going to exist for memes, right? Like there's cultural context you may not understand, but to Matt Fury's chagrin, the Pepe meme had a huge impact on the election in 2016, became a global phenomena, and mattered in a political sense that's very real. And then proceeded to grow and evolve and be sculpted by major media. I mean, major mass media not only took notice of the Pepe meme, but tried to define it in a way that was counter to what the I guess the primary users of the Pepe meme were attempting. They tried to appropriate it into their political discourse. This is like an important pivotal moment in 2016 that revolved around a cartoon frog. It's weird. That's why I say they're important.
Well, and I think, I mean, this is, you've always been a good counterbalance to some of my intuitions, but that meme particularly is an example of one that probably does have lasting or at least historic significance to some extent in whatever, and who knows how interested future generations will be in this sort of thing, but I guess so to me, what I'm thinking of is like, I'm trying to think of like, what does a meme do? Because I don't think a meme does the same thing that like a novel does. So as an example, you use Crime and Punishment. But Crime and Punishment has a lot of the context embedded in the story. So, when I read Crime and Punishment, I didn't really know a whole lot about the author. The first time, I didn't really go and read any big histories about Russia, but I just read the book, and so I guess I don't know. I think to some extent, I think they're doing different things, not dissimilar things, and I do think that you're right in terms of, we have to understand cultural phenomenon. This is a type of communication, but to me, it seems like a meme is more of like a reaction or a response to culture in general. It's it's an ongoing sort of real time commentary on culture, whereas a novel is certainly commentary on a culture, but it's long form, and so it does ultimately different things. Like I don't necessarily see the use for something like, and maybe this is just my perspective, but like Dostoevsky or Plato's Republic or something like that. I don't see that in the future generations would have less use for those sorts of things than they do now. But maybe you're right. Maybe there is room for, but then they also will add memes to that. And
I think so.
Memes studying is a way of capturing that cultural zeitgeist, at that moment.
Most importantly, though, the pursuit and study of memes is hilarious.
Well, you see, that's the thing, is like it's meant for enjoyment, and it's
I don't think so.
It's entertainment. You don't think it's entertainment? I
think it's entertainment in the same way that a novel is entertainment. But just because it's entertaining doesn't preclude truth, or doesn't preclude massive social commentary, or it also depends on what is a meme and what is the meme. So remember, of course, for every Crime and Punishment, there were 10,000 other Russians writing books that no one cares about. For every Pepe meme, there's 100 memes that don't make it, or 1 million.
That's right.
It doesn't really matter. But But like, so is the Pepe meme the one frog face, or is it the collective use of Pepe in a particular span of time? Like, what is that? See, this is deep. We need a philosopher on so we can make fun of them for not having a good opinion.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Memes are more of like the philosophical use of meme is more of like a cultural. It's almost akin to like an archetype. It's something. It's like an idea that's embedded in a culture, and you know. And to some extent, like when we use the word meme, we're talking like right now we're talking very narrowly about like a funny little cartoon with a frog or something. But I mean, but memes are so much bigger than that in the sense of like it really gets down to like this is the way people in this place were thinking, in this place and time were thinking about this, or this is this cultural sort of phenomenon. And to me, that's the interesting thing about what memes are, right? So when a certain meme becomes funny, I think that's where the richness comes in later generations, where they'll figure out like, yeah, this meme became popular, but this was what was going on behind the scenes. This was the cultural subtext. I don't know. But
I'm really just working really hard to try and get you to like better memes. That's what I'm trying to do.
I was just going to admit. I was just going to admit, like, but I'm probably the least educated person in terms of memes. Like I don't spend a ton of time, I'm
gonna just bombard you one day with Dostoevsky memes. That's what I'm gonna do.
But here I do this. I do make a habit of collecting. If I see a funny meme, like I make a habit of collecting ones that I think are kind of relevant to our class, and I make a habit of posting that, like I project it up on the screen with the agenda every day before class, and that's just like a thing I've done, and it's really interesting to see kids' reaction to some of these things, because some of it they won't get, because it'll be a meme that I think is funny but they don't understand, or sometimes they'll just go crazy and they'll just be like, oh my gosh. So there was one, it was like the meme was, maybe you saw it, was like the earbuds and then the little cornrow waves. Do you remember that?
No.
And then people were doing it with everything. So they were taking like famous paintings or pictures of people, and they were like doing the little like cornrow waves and then the white earbud. Did you ever see that?
No.
So you don't even know the meme I'm talking about.
I only see funny memes.
You don't think that was a funny meme?
I don't know. I haven't seen it. It must not be.
But it was a massively. I don't know about funny, but some of it was funny. But it was a massively popular meme, like earlier this for a while. It wasn't a very long lasting one, but it was one of the wow, that was really popular. A bunch of people did it, and they were putting like cornrow waves and AirPods on everything, and it was funny because they're taking these like classical pictures. But I posted that to my kids, and they went wild, man. They were like, oh my gosh, I saw this, and then they were coming up with their own ideas and stuff. So that speaks to the power of what a meme can do, or the interest that it might have at a specific moment.
See,
so I don't know, I buy it.
You got to understand.
I just maybe need to be better.
Do you know how I know that the cornrows and earbuds meme isn't funny? Because
Why?
because I didn't see it and I only see funny memes. That's logic. That's logic.
That's right. Right. Well, it's unassailable logic. Yeah.
I know. That's the point. Well, let's.
Okay. What's your favorite meme though? You can't talk about memes without talking about what you think is the funniest meme you've ever seen.
Well, I don't know what the funniest meme I've ever seen is, but the one that always warms my cockles is the Virgin Islands versus the Chad Republic, man. It's so funny.
The what? The Virgin Islands?
Virgin Islands versus the Chad Republic. I'm going to find it for you. And I'll send it to you because you can even... Oh, hold on. So, did you find it already?
I did find it. The Virgin Islands of the...
Yeah, so you've got, yeah, you have to know the Chad meme a little bit to get the full context. But look at the Chad Republic. Looks like the Chad face. That's funny, man. It's unrelentingly funny.
That's pretty funny.
So,
never lonely, always surrounded by neighbors.
Right, exactly.
All right. That's funny.
But no, so I don't know. And I don't know if that's like, in the scheme of things, I don't know if that's one meme. I don't know if that's just a portion of the meme. I don't know. But there's a whole bunch. Come on, guys. You got to know what cockles are. You got to have your cockles. You got to have your cockles warm from time to time. If you don't.
I've always, what is it? Your cackles. Like, you don't want to get your cackles raised. You don't want to get your cackles up.
That's hackles. That's an H. No, that's hackles. What kind of English teacher are you?
Hackles. That's what it was. Not cackles. Hackles. That's right. Yeah.
Raising your cackles is what. Raising your cackles is what. I'm not going to finish that joke. Never mind.
It's a family-friendly show. Come on.
Well, no, it wasn't family-friendly. It was just, or family-unfriendly. It was just offensive, and that's okay.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, well, let's real quick. Let's talk about the GoFundMe one more time, and then I'll finish reading super chats and stuff like that. So the GoFundMe, I don't have. Hold on. I don't have an easy way to put this up on screen. I want to. Let me. Oh, wait, I can. Just give me a second. You're gonna disappear for a second.
Okay.
How do I do this? I think if I put this. My narrating of me being really bad at running a show is gonna be. That's great.
It makes you lovable and accessible. So.
I guess.
Yeah.
I think if I get rid of this, aha! There it is. You can't see it, but they can. Okay. And again, that's what's important. All right. We've got Mr. W's classroom library. We're at 850 of $10,000, which is great.
That's impressive.
Yeah, thank you guys to everybody who has contributed. It's really awesome. Remember, at the bottom of all of this, for all of our silly banter and our inability to understand memes and our fluffing of Stephen King and Dostoevsky and all of these morons who are really just fatzos who decided to put a pen to paper and don't understand Dat Boy at all. You think Dostoevsky could talk about Dat Boy? Not a chance. Anyway, if... For all of that, the ultimate purpose of this is to raise money to get books into the hands of kids, and not just to get a lot of different books into the hands of kids, not books that are controlled by some weird group who's determined that there's a word in a book that is scary, and that one word means that the kids can't read it, or that kids are incapable of tackling deep issues, or that there's a political agenda against a particular book, or any number of things. This is about building a robust library to get kids reading so that they do understand memes when they grow up, and that so that their memes don't suck, and so that, you know, so they're not making memes about Diet Coke. Okay, that's just terrible. But anyway,
that's right.
So let me
absolutely.
I'm gonna read the description real quick. And that way people can know, you know, your words. These are your words in the description. I think they're good words. So I've always loved libraries. My family moved around several times when I was young, and one constant comfortable place I found in each new town we moved to was the local library. Nerd. You deserve a wedgie for that line. But I believe that surrounding myself with books and the endless possibilities and adventures they represent fostered my lifelong love of reading. As an English teacher at a small local private school, I want to provide a similar experience for my students. Classrooms are often such sterile places, but books can engender an atmosphere of curiosity and expectation. I am raising money to build a robust classroom library to surround my students with as much possibility and wonder as I can. This is more than just idealism and a romantic English teacher. Data from standardized testing suggests that simply reading 20 minutes a day can increase a student's likelihood of scoring in the 70th percentile or higher on the SATs. Reading is one of the best ways students can prepare for future success in the world. Research also suggests that students need to be surrounded by a critical mass of around 1,000 or 2,000 high-interest reading materials to spark their engagement and appeal to the broad range of interests they represent. Thus, my goal is $10,000, figuring about $10 for each book in a library of about 1,000 enticing books. This sounds exorbitant. Consider that it includes such things as shipping costs, a classroom dictionary set, and storage containers. So there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, please continue to contribute to this. I'll be making, I was going to tell you, I'm making a contribution on the 21st to this.
Cool.
So,
Thank you.
I'm not sure the exact size of it, but I plan on making a decent size contribution, we'll say.
Well,
to
thanks.
it, because it's something I do believe in, and I know you, and I have you have my trust and confidence because you're not a dummy. You may be a boomer at
Well,
times,
thanks.
and you may interrupt yourself at inopportune times in the middle of your own sentence, but that's just because I know you're thinking through your words.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I catch it. No, so I mean, I'm honestly, like, I'm humbled by, people's generosity. And so thanks for everybody who's donated or will donate, and for your donation. And honestly, to me, this comes down to, this is not like, these are not books that I'm looking to build my library to make me look good, or books that I want to read. These are not books I'm going to, keep in my house. They'll be in the classroom. These are books I'm going to send home with kids, and most likely, and hopefully they'll be destroyed and they'll be used and they'll be read. I don't mean destroyed, but like they'll be well used and they'll be well read. And that's the goal. And if I sound like a nerd, it is true. I am a nerd. But like when we were talking about raising boys in this society, to me, I think that reading is one of the really powerful ways that we can do this. Because to me, I think more than any time before, what boys of any stripe and background need are visions of what they could be, and they need to see pictures of possibilities, and they need to be sort of awakened to potential and sort of raised to the occasion of, like, this is a hard thing, but I can overcome this. And it's sort of a call to adventure. And I shouldn't say it's just for boys. I think it's for everybody. It's for boys and girls alike. But I think very specifically, just because I have boys, I tend to really be thinking about the way that our culture is really down on boys. And when we look at, like, standardized testing data, the boys are the ones that are performing the lowest when it comes to reading. So every English teacher knows that your hardest sell is going to be to that kid, that boy who just doesn't seem to be interested in any book. And so, boys tend to read less. They tend to perform lower on these reading comprehension things. And there's some interesting needs, like less young men are applying for college, and less are entering into the workforce. And so there is something going on here. And I mean, this is just one small way to try to address that trend. And it sounds nerdy, but I really believe that reading is the solution to some of this. So anyway, that's what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm doing it.
Just out of curiosity, how are you going to pick these books? Like, because obviously, I mean, maybe you've read 1,000 books. That's such a weird, like, how many books have you read? I don't know. But have you read 1,000 high school level books that you're going to put in a classroom? The answer is probably no. And so then,
no.
How do you go about choosing this diverse curricula of books? I'm just curious, like, if you have a method planned.
Yeah, I have some ideas of how to start. So there actually are lists that people have compiled, other people than me, and even researchers. Where it's either based on popularity or interest or something like that, or impact with students. These books have performed well with students. There are lists that are out there. I've got a couple of them. Most of the lists involve, I would say, a few hundred books. And so I'm planning on using a couple of those. There's also a really interesting book that came out. It's called, I think, something like 1,000 Books You Should Read Before You Die or something like that. And so, I'll be looking at that and other similar resources.
What about
one thing to think about is it's not necessarily so much that there are going to be 1,000 individual, unique, separate books. Like some of these might be in a series, some of these books I might get 2 of because I know that kids are going to be really interested in that Divergent series or something like that, and so there might be a few duplicates here and there. But I'm also going to try to, I think, depending on what happens and how much we get raised, I'll also probably do a little bit of a survey with my students and just ask them, like, what are books that you've read that you would recommend, that you would like to see in this library for other students. And so I'm going to try to incorporate a number of different options to build the library. And some of this, of course, I think, I've mentioned earlier, if there are books that were powerful for you when you were a kid, thinking high school appropriate, high school level, I'm open to looking into those too. So feel free to make the
Hey guys, when you
comments.
donate on GoFundMe, you can actually leave a comment. Leave a comment with some book suggestions. And remember the target range is what, 9th to 11th grade, something like that?
Yeah, 9th to 11th grade, and honestly, I'll probably have middle school at the high school level or early college level. It's we're not looking for, books that are really difficult or really niche books. We're looking for books that are going to have a really obvious appeal to, teenagers, because that's the whole goal. Like I could have a bookshelf full of amazing books, but if nobody read them, then what's the point, So this is less about what I think is even a good book, and it's more about just what are going to be books that kids are going to actually take off the shelves and want to read. And so
what about including things like I'll call them alternative. I don't want to call it alternative ideas about literature, but what about things like manga and comic books, graphic novels?
Yeah.
Are those going to be on the list? Because I think it'd be really cool if your classroom library included One Punch Man or something, which is it's some people might look down on that type of thing, but it's literature. I mean, I know you had a heavy comic book influence when you were younger and stuff like that, and it's definitely a valuable communication medium. Manga is of course extremely popular. Are you looking to include stuff like that in your
Yeah, and some of it depends on like I said, how much, whatever that final end amount is, but when it comes to graphic novels, I'm a huge fan of comic books, and there's a lot of really good graphic novels out there that are really well told, well drawn, and so my ultimate goal would be to have different sort of categories of books, and so one category would certainly be graphic novels or manga or something like that. One nonfiction, biographies or autobiographies or thrillers or mysteries or something like and I would love to have different genres to be able to let kids kind of experience different things, because I think that's important. Some of the best stories that I've read have been graphic novels, and I'm kind of a sucker for that stuff even today. I read a lot of comic books, and
what about modern Marvel comics? Are you a fan of the modern ones?
No, man.
What about She-Hulk?
Marvel had some good storylines up until 2 or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and I don't know, the last few I've picked up lately have just been a little too obvious with the whole like we're really trying to make a point here about culture or something that's meaningful. And honestly, all I really want is just like, I just want Thor to punch the bad guy or something, you know?
Yeah, with
I
a
want to
hammer.
see something cool. So, you know, actually, what's the one? It's gosh, it's a weird. It's kind of it's a really. Oh shoot! I'll look it up here. I just started it. It's not necessarily a kid friendly, high school friendly book, but it's Saga. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Saga?
It's like a series.
It's just called Saga.
Yeah.
Is this
It's just called Saga.
What is this? What is Saga?
I don't know.
Well,
I just started
who publishes
reading it.
Who publishes it? Is it a comic book? Is it a graphic novel? Is it a novel? What is it?
It's a graphic novel comic book. I think it's Image. I don't know. I can't see on the cover here. It's too small. But it's the premise is that it's sort of the modern day. It's kind of like Romeo and Juliet, modern super future sort of thing, where it's like two alien races, a girl and a guy fall in love, and they have a child. And, you know, it's a relationship that's totally off limits, and they're traveling the galaxy trying to get away from all of these bounty hunters trying to kill them and whatnot. It's interesting. It's weird. It's super weird. It's like one of the bounty hunters is like a spider girl, but like, I mean, literally a girl's torso, but like with spider legs on the abdomen. It's weird. You know, but it's fun. Like, it's just interesting, and I'm trying it out. It's brand new, and I've not gotten far into it, but it's interesting. I kind of like it. So
That's weird. Are you going to put Watchmen? Are you going to put Watchmen in there?
I love Watchmen. I mean, I'd love to put that in my classroom.
You think you could?
If I can.
Isn't there a dangling wiener in Watchmen somewhere?
Is it? Yeah, that's right. That is in the. Well, I don't know. I might have censored. See, the ultimate trick with a classroom library is that, you know, you will have people scrutinizing, and so as much as you might say, yeah, like it's freedom of expression, we want kids to explore ideas and that sort of thing, you know, you're gonna have. I'm gonna try to be sensitive. I'm gonna try not to set myself up to make parents angry, if that makes sense. Like, instead what I'm hoping to do is create conversations with parents. Like, if a student wanted to read a certain book, you know, then I would say, I'm fine with it if I think you can handle it, but, you know, if you want to be sure, go check with your parents, because I think that those are things parents and kids should talk more about, instead of just banning. All too often parents just ban stuff or whatever, or kids never tell their parents what they're doing, and then they end up creating hard feelings, and people get weird with that stuff. So I'm going to have to be kind of careful with that, because I don't want to make anybody. I don't want to set myself up to have this whole project fail because somebody saw a book that was, you know, offensive and they didn't like it or something. You know what I mean? Like, right. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, yep. I don't want to make myself a target.
Well, you're already a target because you're a teacher, and teachers are targets.
I'm a teacher target. Yeah.
Teachers are
targets.
Well,
yeah.
Teachers are appropriate targets. That's what I'm saying. I'll let you know on Warhammer books. I'll give you some recommendations, because I think more kids need Warhammer in their lives.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, you know, it's we're just looking. A lot of this is reading for enjoyment, and it's for just reading for pleasure, and, you know, so that fits the bill, I think.
That it does. All right, I've got a couple more chats here. Actually, I have a ton more chats to get through. So let's do those. But anyways, guys, the GoFundMe link is in the description. I showed it to you so you can check it out. We're going to read through chat, so if you do check out during the chat time, peace, I'll see you later. Otherwise, hang out with us for a little bit, and maybe we'll say something that's not too old. Blaine20 says, soda and alcohol cause fatty and scarred liver, so you can be a hydrated corpse all you want. Well, better than a dehydrated corpse like Ginsburg. Jimmy the Hand says, dad jokes are great, but the real fun is uncle jokes. They're like dad jokes, but dirty. Oh, yeah, I know.
And probably creepy, too, you know, yeah. Oh gosh.
Freighter J says the invention of the ballpoint pen was the death of eloquence. The invention of the keyboard was the death of poise. The invention of Twitter was the death of thought. I'm going to sell coffee mugs with that on it. Good job, buddy. I think you should do it.
Sounds great. I love it.
Advertise them on Twitter, because that's what I do. Phoenix Lord Asserman says, have you considered the epic legal romantic tragedy Why I Sued Taylor Swift by the great Russell Greer? That's a good question. Have you considered putting Why I Sued Taylor Swift on your shelf?
I've never heard of it before now, but
what?
I can think of many reasons to sue Taylor Swift.
No, but why Russell Greer sued Taylor Swift is it's one of the best. God, it's the ballad. It's the ballad of a spurned man.
Yeah.
It's got love. It's got rejection. It's got triumph.
You've read this?
Have I read it?
Really?
Have I read it?
Huh.
Have I read it? I read it live. I read it in a 9-part series on YouTube.
I did not know that.
It's got danger. It's got lawyers. It's got fire bombings. It's got Olive Gardens. It's got everything that you could want in it. It's got HDMI
like the real Olive Garden, like unlimited breadsticks.
HDMI cables that are too short. It's got prejudicial judges. It's got a vast global media conspiracy. This is a modern thriller. You've got to get it on your shelf.
Fair point. We'll write it down. We'll put it on the list.
Why I Sued Taylor Swift. I can think of no better thing to put in the hands of children. Scott E. Wolfrey says, please check the email I sent Wolfrey's. Wolfrey's is silent. Okay. Blaine 20 says, delinquent and flamboyant. These are from a while back. Delinquent and flamboyant. Pixlexia says, laticles and gaticles, but no tentacles. Sad. No, we don't do, there's no tentacle hentai on this stream. This is far too wholesome.
Yeah, for sure. I have an image.
Kalinka Pavlova says, late and flambéed. Solace Greer says, when do you add new Project 2 subscribers to Discord? When they email me and say, hey, you idiot, add me to the Discord and send me a copy or like a screenshot of your receipt. That's I'm working on getting Dick to implement a Discord bot to New Project 2, but until he does, that's the best way. So just send me an email, show me a picture of the receipt or whatever, and I will send you a link. Fancy Flight says, I know this might be hard to find and a little out of the age range, but Nintendo had a series of choose-your-own adventure books based off their games. I'm recommending these because they got me into reading.
Cool.
I actually think it's healthy to have a couple, some very interesting and high-impact reading choices that are below the expected reading level because, like you said, you've got kids who are below that level.
Mm-hmm. There will be, yeah. I mean, there's got to be because, like I said, I got, 11th graders reading at middle school level, and so yeah, you got to, and that's the goal. That's why you need so many books, is because you've got such a broad range of interests and needs. So. Right.
Ty 210 says, a good book is Ghost Rider Travels on the Healing Road by Neil Peart. Wondering if you read it, and P.S. the name is like Ty 210. So there you go. Did you read Ghost Rider Travels on the Healing Road?
Is that with Nicolas Cage? Or is that a different Ghost Rider?
I don't know. I don't know if it is.
Ghost Rider or Ghost Rider, like R-I-D-E or R-I-T-E-R?
No, Ghost Rider like the comic character. I just don't know if it involves the comic character.
Okay.
I would assume it has to.
I've not read it, no.
So
I'll look it up, though.
Ghost Rider Travels on the Healing Road. Oh, excuse me. Rocket Ship says, Frank Herbert, Asimov, and Dan Simmons beg to differ. That's on your Stephen King autism that you were talking about.
Well, now that's not popular living author. None of those guys. But I would agree.
Dan Simmons is alive and a popular author.
Huh?
Dan Simmons is alive and he's a popular author.
Oh, was Dan Simmons on that list?
Yeah.
I thought he. Yeah, I must
Frank
have misheard.
Herbert and Asimov were the first
and
two.
Herbert.
Yeah.
And by the way, I would agree. Like they are definitely the greats. Frank Herbert is amazing, and I mean those Foundation and Dune will all be that. Those are shoo-ins, of course.
What about how much Ayn Rand is going to be on your shelf?
Oh, I'll have an entire shelf just devoted to Anthem.
Just Anthem. I honestly like.
I love it.
The more and more I read. Or not read. I don't like reread Ayn Rand stuff. But the more and more I think about it, I think Anthem is much more impactful and better than Atlas Shrugged and Fountainhead.
Yeah. I mean, Atlas Shrugged. I when I read it, I got about halfway through, and then it was really kind of a hard slog getting through that 60-page soliloquy by Galt, and it was like. But once you're past that, then the action picks back up again. I found Fountainhead to be much more compelling. I went through that way faster, and I liked Anthem too. But I think Fountainhead for me is my favorite. Those. But
you can't hand a kid.
To me, those are all obvious shoo-ins.
You can't hand a kid an 850-page Fountainhead, but you can hand them like a 70-page Anthem.
Yeah, they do read. I think in 7th or 8th grade, I think they read Anthem. I think it's 8th grade in the school I'm in. They read Anthem.
Your school teaches Anthem in 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah. 8th grade for sure.
I there's a local congressman I troll by just saying have you read Anthem over and over to him. That's all I ever say to him. Right. Have you read Anthem? And he says, no, I haven't read it yet. And then I don't talk to him anymore.
Yet? Come on, man. What's the excuse? There's only 70 pages.
Actually,
something like that.
A kid that I teach at or taught at our homeschool co-op. He's now out of high school, and he was working as a cook at a restaurant, and the server came in and said, "Oh, do you know who's here? So and so, this politician, right?" And he says, "Oh, go ask him if he's read Anthem yet." So I try to get kids to bombard this poor kid. Or this poor, not kid, this poor politician all over the place.
That's funny.
Mainly because he was being very stupid one day. And that's my punishment for him. Get ready, Alex Lewis Armstrong says, Michael J. Sullivan is a modern author with a series of fantasy books called The Ryria Revelation and Legends of the First Empire, and they are fantastic.
All right, writing them down.
And by the way, Card. I like Card more than King, too. I do.
I don't. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have Card Mormon you to death for that.
I do like Orson, but I'm on first name basis with Orson Scott Card.
Put Maps in a Mirror on the shelf at least.
Huh?
Put Maps in a Mirror on the shelf.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you better. I'm taking control. Oh, I forgot. Rocket Ship also said 40K books are fantastic, which is true.
Okay.
Stabby, but I'll curate a list for you. Stabby McStabswood says this dad isn't much of a Chad if he hasn't even read Fight Club. Come on, man, roast him, Nick. I'm more disappointed that you haven't
read Fight Club. Yes.
So you've read Polaniak? You said you didn't read you hadn't read Polaniak, but you've read him because you read Fight Club.
Polaniak? Oh, maybe. I guess maybe the name went by me fast.
Yeah. Fight Club. You got to read Haunted. Haunted is great.
Yeah, I've not read Haunted, but yeah. I mean, I think you are the one who. I think I even have I think it's your book that I have because you lent it to me back in 2005 or 6 or something like that.
What, Fight Club? Probably.
Yeah, and I offered to give it back to you, and I think you were just like, "Yeah, no worries," or something like that. I still have it. I don't
need to reread it right now. Maybe someday.
You want to read it right?
I want you to get it out and read it right now to me.
All right, I'll take it out right now.
Bad Vibe says, "Hey, teach Dean Koontz if he finishes Snow's trilogy."
I've heard that. Yeah.
I liked Lightning. That's a Dean Koontz book I really liked. Lightning was cool.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. Stabby McStabswood says, "Truly being a parent is a human growth experience." It is. Kidda says, "Heath is wrong. Best U.S. author is Piers Anthony."
Piers Anthony? Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Well,
I don't
has
know.
Has he written 50 books and sold?
Don't do that. That's that's a baseless argument. Don't you even dare.
I get it. It's a controversial claim, and it's probably not even true.
Well,
I'll
also,
probably change my mind later.
You've got the real problem that Stephen King is an insufferable piece of trash. Like, as a person.
Is he really?
Oh,
I don't know what he's
God.
like in person.
No, just he went full on with the political stuff. Like, and
Did he?
Oh yeah, he's super, like, ridiculously overtly anti-Trump to the point where his throat probably bleeds when he thinks about it. It's so annoying because it's like, man, now I can't.
Where though? Where, like, on where
Twitter,
has he said
Facebook,
because I haven't
articles.
been paying attention to him.
Yeah, please don't, because this is a problem. Like, I know that everybody's entitled to their own opinion or whatever, but once you say that opinion, it colors everything else for people who disagree with you, and I hate that because I really like Stephen King's characterization. His ability to get you inside someone's mind it's something that he has mastered. And then, but if I try to talk to people about Stephen King, their opinion of him will be colored by his overt political shrieking. And
right.
It's like,
sure.
And I don't want people to do it the other way either, because if I want to recommend a book by someone to someone who's like overtly right wing or right leaning, and I want to recommend their work to someone, and they have not just that they express their political views, but they express them in a way that diminishes people who disagree with them. That's the real trick.
Right.
And King does that a lot lately, and that's frustrating to me. I'm actually pretty good at just not caring about someone's personal opinions, but it makes it harder for me to communicate to other people about them, and that's the hard part. So
yeah.
Anyway, King went downhill after he got run over. Well, he didn't get run over hard enough.
Ouch.
Anyways, no, but yeah, so that's one of the reasons the chat is not a big fan of Stephen King, because many of my chat do not like people who do that, who inject their personal politics vitriolically into the public space.
So right. No, I get it. I didn't know he did that though. That may change things. Okay, I'll take it back. Next time I'll come on and I'll say that Larry McMurtry is the best living popular author.
Who's Larry McMurtry?
What? He wrote Lonesome Dove?
Okay, well, see, I know I know the title Lonesome Dove. I just don't know Larry McMurtry by name. 'Cause who cares?
Lonesome Dove may be one of my favorite novels of all time. Like, it's certainly up there with, Dune, the trilogy, the Lord of the Rings, obviously. But like Dune is way up there.
Have you heard of
Dune,
the
Lonesome
Bible?
Dove. Like, so great. It's just a great book.
Have you heard of the Bible, Heath? No, I'm just kidding.
The
Sorry.
Bible?
That's a modern American author.
I have heard of it somewhere. Yeah, I don't know what it's about, but
Kalinka Pavlova says reading is an issue across the world. Kalinka is from New Zealand. My daughter's school is pushing hard for reading comprehension because it's a concern in my community. Zayray says, I could be wrong, but on average, kids read more than the previous generations on the daily, thanks to phones, social media, and just the internet in general. A luxury past generations didn't have. Right. And I think that's true, or possibly true. The question, of course, is, are they reading enriching stuff? And that's a long philosophical discussion about.
Well, it is. I do think, though, I would contest that. I would say, I wouldn't. What you're engaging with on the phone is not the same thing as what you do when you're immersed in a novel. So they've done some studies about this. where what they've done is they've made a distinction between what they call like skim reading and then deep reading. And so like the goal, the transformative effects that we can measure where there are actually changes in brains, in students' brains as they're reading, those are deeper benefits that they come from that specifically deep type of reading. That is, by the way, it's harder to get to that point on an electronic device. So there are actually like real measurable benefits to using like a physical book over an electronic device. So, that's certainly an argument people have had. But I think there's enough research now that a lot of people are saying, it's not the same thing. The physical paper book is a different experience because of the way our brains are wired. On the other hand, in 300 years, our brains might be completely rewired to respond in a different way. I mean,
if you don't put H.P. Lovecraft on that shelf, I'm gonna drive down there and pummel you to death.
Which book?
Oh, any H.P. Lovecraft book. The complete works of H.P. Lovecraft is like $10 at Barnes and Noble.
I like Lovecraft, of course.
He's great.
I want old stuff.
I want your children worshiping the old gods. That's what I want. I think that'd be great. I think that'd be good. I think that wouldn't have any trouble. Random Byzantine Guard says, social media was a mistake. Read more, kids. Kalinka Pavlova says, there are some geniuses in chat trying to make Heath out to be anti-white and anti-history because he said dead white men. Like, stop being willfully ignorant. Yes.
I love dead white men. I'm the first person who would make an argument for sticking to a very traditional Western canon. To me, we need those books that have the stalwart books of the Western tradition.
Well, because of course we are ultimately a Western culture, and so right. having books that inform what developed Western culture only makes sense.
Exactly. Now, what I would say is I don't think we have to just end it with those classic books. So to me, I think there are a lot of books that are being added or could be added to the Western canon that have a rightful spot up there next to all of the authors we would consider great, like Hemingway and Steinbeck and Dickens and those folks, because I think there are a lot of really good things that have been written in the last several decades in the modern period. So I don't envision a closed canon, and so my whole argument is there's a whole movement of people who want to throw out the classics written by the old white dead guys, and I think that's the problem. Like, that's not a good idea, and there are actually concerted efforts to do that, and I think that's wrong. I think that's a mistake, and so to me, I say let's keep them in there. Let's just include, new worthy works of fiction and literature. So it's my soapbox with that.
Mike Lombardo, that's a good clarification, because there was confusion earlier, but like I said, it's the internet. People leap into perceptions based on what they're used to hearing too, which is
for sure. Right.
Mike Lombardo says, thankfully, I can say I had an awesome English teacher. You are a very lucky person. I don't want to say I had maybe one good one. I completely agree. Have either of you heard of Green Angel by Alice Hoffman? I love that one. I have not. Green Angel.
Nope, I haven't either. Green Angel. I'll write it down.
Talbot Link says, no hiring white or Asian. Good thing Tim Pool doesn't want a Google job. Oh, come on. Kalinka Pavlova says, Heath, I think your idea as a strategy won't work from this decade onwards. You can't go on with life if you're unemployable because of your sex and ethnicity. No, I don't think that's what you were saying.
What? I don't understand what the point was.
Well, since it was like 2 hours ago, so it's hard to distill. But I think it was mishearing. I think it was mishearing you saying something about accepting responsibility for where you are or something like that. But no, I think you were at the time, if I remember right, you were identifying problems that people face, and that might have been before we were talking about the idea that comparing suffering isn't all that harmful because it matters to the person at the time being. So
for sure, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, nothing more to say to that. But yeah, I certainly don't want it to be perceived that I'm like trying to diminish, the problem, because I do think there are like young white males that are in crisis mode. So, Well,
I mean, I think the rise of speakers like Peterson shows that that's true, and even the unpalatable to many people demonstrations that have occurred in various places. They will call them white supremacist rallies. Whether or not it's white supremacy doesn't ultimately matter because that's the label. But that's a symptom. That's a symptom of these feelings, of this perception that people have. And I've talked about this, and sometimes unpopularly talked about this when I talk about things like Black Lives Matter or police violence. It's when you get into arguing about statistics or figures specifically in relation to these problems, you're breaking down what is ultimately a problem of perception in a community or even in an individual, and that if the perception doesn't necessarily match the reality is less of a question for the person who has that perception than it is for society, and throwing statistics at people won't change the perspective. So we have to address those perspectives. So that's kind of where we were going. But again, these are nuanced and long discussions, and engaging in those discussions requires a great amount of faith from the participants and deference to the person without trying to counter attack at every moment, it's a hard thing to do on social media. And to me, that's why Twitter is not a good place for political discourse.
Right.
Because it's too easy and too fulfilling to get the dunk in on your opponent rather than to engage the discussion.
Right. You're trying to score points, not actually, listen and have that conversation.
Right. Anyway, Jason of the Great Awakening says, don't forget George Westinghouse rescued Nikolai Tesla from hard labor digging trenches. I'm thinking the entitlement SJW feminist view of actual work is rather naive, perhaps. Very possible. Freighter J says, Chicago deep dish is overrated, but we got the hot dog right. If you put ketchup on your hot dog, you deserve to be drug out in the street and shot. So, there you go.
Uh-oh. Fighting words.
Talbot Link says, that's what Bane was actually doing in The Dark Knight. It was all the ketchup users that he was.
That's right.
So wealthy that they didn't have to deal with the social repercussions of ketchup use in Gotham City. The Bane upended that.
Right.
Talbot Link says, all this talk on safety for young men. Talk to Phil yet? No, I haven't talked to Phil yet. Andrew War Snowboard says, Heath, favorite video game and favorite barbecue sauce. You better have the right answer. Sauce. You better have the right answer on favorite barbecue sauce, but also favorite video game.
Barbecue sauce. Oh, good Lord. I don't know. I don't actually eat a lot of barbecue sauce.
There's only one answer to favorite barbecue sauce, and that's none. If your barbecue needs sauce, go to Texas and get it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when I don't know how to answer that. Like if I'm grilling up steak, I just use salt and pepper it, man. I don't.
Why would you put barbecue sauce on steak? No, you put it on barbecue. But you actually don't put it on steak. Isn't barbecue? Oh my God! It's been too long since you've been to my house.
Use it for I don't know. I'm not a Texan, man.
Well, that's obvious.
Right. Video game though. Video game is favorite video game is probably in terms of like the effect on me.
If you say Halo, why I oughta.
Huh?
Nothing? What's your answer?
What'd you say? You said don't say Halo or?
I just.
No. Oh, that's a hard one. Honestly, I loved Super Mario World growing up. That was a fun game. But I think actually no, I take that back. I like Donkey Kong better than Super Mario World. Like the minecart little
Donkey Kong
rides
Country.
through
You're talking Donkey Kong Country.
Donkey Kong Country. Yeah. Is that yeah, I don't even remember the name of it. It's so long ago. But man, I loved those. They're the best adventures, man. So DK Donkey Kong, yeah.
Cesario JPN says, high school kids, stuff that mofo with lots of manga. There you go. So lots of manga in your library. Werex says, here's a book that will be interesting for kids. Conrad Kerr's The Night Haunter, a wholesome and family-friendly book. I agree. I agree. It's right. Here, I'll show you. I'll have to give you the non-special edition version, but I will personally. Where is it? I will personally fund I will personally fund the individual Primark books for your library, but this is Conrad Kerr's The Night. You can't see it. Wow. Or can you?
I can't see it.
The camera didn't.
No video has ever come up, man.
God, this is the worst. Look at this. Look at this. Guy.
Yeah.
Conrad. You need Conrad in your life.
Okay. If you say so. I'm second guessing this whole Donkey Kong thing. For whatever reason, I was just thinking of like platforms and like earlier platforms. But actually, did you ever play the original PC game of Dune?
No.
Like Dune?
No.
It was one of the very first real-time strategy games. This is like back in the early 90s.
No, I never played Dune.
I loved that game. Now that I think about it. I don't know.
Well, there you go. It's, let's see. Okay, we got, where was I? Zachary Kingston says, at what point does an otherwise good book begin to lose itself and go downhill most often, in your opinion? Have a fun night. For me, it's Act 3. But. Yeah.
At what point? I don't know. I think there's a point where authors can get stuck in the idea, and they're either trying to go too deep into it. Maybe they get stuck with like a certain character arc or something that's just not interesting, or they're trying to draw it out a little bit too much, where it's like, no, this is going on too long. Just give me the resolution. So. Yeah, maybe that's a third act problem, but maybe it's a second act problem too.
I just feel like authors have trouble managing the climax and the falling action. And
for sure, yeah.
They certainly did in the stupid movie I saw today, where they had problems managing the falling action and the resolution. It was Guillermo del Toro deserves. I don't know where he's from, but we need a wall to throw him over back to that place. Even if it's like New Jersey, I don't care. I think it's Spain, isn't it? Isn't he from Spain, Guillermo?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
His name sounds ethnically Russian or maybe Chinese, but I think he's from Spain or Portugal.
He's probably just from the Bronx. He's probably like just a good old boy.
Well, then I'm gonna build a wall around the Bronx and throw him into there. I'm so mad. Like, it was going fine. And then the ending was really stupid. Dang it! Why can't you figure? Well,
now I know not to go.
No,
I'm just not gonna go.
Don't go. Just see it when it comes out, or whatever. Rent it, or look at it. Is he from Mexico? Someone says Mexico, but I don't know if he's Mexico or from Spain.
I don't know.
Whichever one. I will. He needs to be catapulted across. It's just for that ending. That ending was terrible. Okay. Where are we? Austin Heartless says, I only hug my Frosted Flakes. Ooh, Frosted Flakes are delicious.
Okay.
Kalinka Pavlova says...
thing to hug.
Kalinka says, I'm glad you feel bad about that advice. That was funny. Blaine 20 says...
I can't remember what it was, but man, that was bad. That's the problem with trying to come up with something in the heat of the moment.
Well, don't do that. Blaine 20 says, Dad, Corono keeps threatening to assault me with hugs. Well, get hugged. Get hugged, pansy. It builds character. Kalinka Pavlova says, as a mom, we just make up dad jokes or steal them. Ike,
For sure.
Ike 13D says, the reason I tell dad jokes is to laugh at the way people react. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yes,
It's funny. It's, yeah.
Yes Man 2044 says, how did becoming a lawyer affect your views on justice, if at all? Yeah, I've decided there isn't any. That's it. That's it. Kalinka says, shill Heath's GoFundMe properly, please. Maybe. We did that. Freighter J says, the invention of the ballpoint pen was... Oh, wait, I read that one. Oh, no. Yeah. Stupid thing. Where did it go? Gawker's Death Rattle says, warm my cockles, raise my hackles, rub my cankles. Primus 23 Primus 234521 says, the Chad of the 80s has got to be He-Man. Nick, I'm too young for that. Skeletor laugh. I'm not too young for He-Man. Very much watched a lot of He-Man. Man-at-Arms always confused me before I realized what Man-at-Arms actually meant. Ichisinko says, this is crazy coincidence. Yesterday I came up with the Virgin Islands versus the Chad Republic meme in my head just to find out it already existed. That's because it's a good meme. Meshikari Roos says, what do you have against Halo, you uncultured man? Just kidding. No, I liked Halo and played the heck out of it.
I like Halo.
You can't call it your favorite. You just can't do it. In seriousness, the Halo novel series are great books and expand the universe greatly. Highly recommended for teen readers. And before you attack, I also like 40K. Good. I'm glad you saved that.
I read several of the Halo novels. So, yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
Did you enjoy them?
The Fall of Reach was it was good. It was interesting.
Did you ever watch the Halo shows?
Yeah.
I tried
a little bit. I
started watching
the one by different directors, and I didn't care for that as much. But
I tried watching it, and then I just forgot to finish because I bought the Xbox Super Pack when they came out with all the Halos, and it came with the access to all the Halo TV shows or whatever. And then I had started watching them, and then I never finished. And it was fine. I just never got around to it.
Like the most recent, you're talking about the most recent one, right? It was
when Halo 4 came out.
CGI live action.
Yeah, it was when Halo 4 came out. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I saw that. I like that. It was good.
Emery Kalame says Warhammer 40K is the BattleTech of modern times. Yeah, kinda. Careful.
Modern times.
Mad Chris says blood for the blood god, skull for the skull throne. Absolutely. Red Pill Journey. The Ghost Rider travels on the Healing Road. I don't know why I didn't see this, but Tai210 says it doesn't involve the comic. It's the drummer from Rush. That's what that book's about, apparently, the drummer from Rush.
Oh.
The Red Pill Journey says Terry Goodkin's Sword of Truth series. Long books, but the world and the story itself is so immersive that during my first tour of Iraq, I stayed and read every book in 3 months thanks to USO donations. Awesome.
Wow. All right.
You got to get Good Omens in there.
Yeah. You know what was interesting though? I watched the TV show first accidentally, and then I tried reading the book.
Have you not read the book?
I lost interest. Yeah, I'd never read the book yet.
I thought I gave you the book.
No,
a decade ago.
You told me about it, and then I kind of forgot about it until recently it came back out. This is the problem, though. There's too many books to read. So I think it's hilarious, though. It's funny. I love the premise.
Yeah. Now I want to watch the show. I heard it's really good, but
it's really good. Yeah. The problem the problem that I had was getting into the book. The show did such a good job of getting the major plot points that it kind of felt like I had already read it, and so I didn't like that. But I'm sure there's major differences to it. I'm not quite there yet. I'm like halfway through.
I'll have to reread it before I watch the show. Grendai says comics, manga are easier to read. Books in general have a slower pace and more volume, but make up for detail and more correct information overall. Yeah, they're different mediums. They get to skip a lot because they have pictures. Gawker's Death Rattle says Anton LaVey is just objectivism with black candles. Grendai says books discipline people with low attention span, impulsive behavior, and takes a while for the brain to learn to like it since it dislikes change. Kalinka Pavlova says Agatha Christie, someone else remembered her first. Agatha Christie books.
Yeah.
Kidda says Piers Anthony has published over 160 books. Stephen King BTFO'd. Known for his Xanth series, Incarnations of Immortality, Bio of a Space Tyrant, and Apprentice Adept. Sounds like he's right up your alley.
Sounds like he wants to fight about it.
Well,
I don't know.
Sounds like he's already won the fight about it. Because you said, has he written 51 books?
True.
Yeah, he's written 3 times that. 3 times.
Well, what do I know? I'm just a guy.
Kalinka Pavlova says, reminder that Lemoine made me give Nick money. Thank you. Thank you, Lemoine. Another reminder that Ron will never be a Chad. That's true. That's true. Mr. DJ Flying High says you should include Matthew Riley's books. I don't know who that is.
Okay. All right.
Blaine20 says the Chatter audio logs released hyped the release of one of the Halo games were very good. Very cool. I like the novels, but I needed more backstory about the government and any disagreements. I don't understand a word of what he just said, but I believe it.
Sure. Okay. I think it's true. Yeah.
Okay. Nicholas says, how do you gents feel about Orson Scott Card and the Ender series? I love it.
Love it.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic.
And I like the Ender Shadow series a little bit better, personally. But it's like Ender's Shadow series is here and Ender is here. Like, we're not talking massive difference. I just like the political thriller action of the Bean story more than I like the heady philosophical slow roast of the Ender story.
Well, Ender's Game is a completely different type of story than the rest of that. The rest of the books in that series, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? The Ender Quartet? Are there 4 books in there?
I think it's a quintet now.
Is it? Yeah, maybe he's added one.
I think they're both quintets.
I liked them both, but I mean, the Ender's Game to me is easily the best piece because it's got a good balance of action and I think that strategy.
You know, it's annoying.
There's the more recent ones he's come out with where it's like it's like the prequels to the whole big battle,
great.
and then there's the series where they're Bean's out on the spaceship with his kids and they're in the middle of nowhere and they're just heading towards nowhere and they encounter the aliens again and the buggers, and that had an interesting. I like that too, and so I like the direction he's been going with those.
You know, I like Ender's Shadow better than I like Ender's Game, but you can't like Ender's Shadow without reading Ender's Game.
Right.
Like, you have to have Ender's Game, I think, to fully appreciate Ender's Shadow. But once I read them both, I liked Shadow better. Bean is
interesting.
Bean is a more interesting character to me than Ender. Always has been. Okay. Where did I leave off? Here we go. Dave Youngson says, I have dyslexia and found reading difficult, so I forced myself to read more and ended up reading at a higher level. Lately, I've switched to audiobooks as I don't have the room to store physical books, and they are handy to listen to while working. Yeah.
Good strategy.
I don't like audiobooks because I don't process information. I don't process that type of information in that way very well. I'm much more visual in that way, but I love audio dramas. So if it's a dramatized audio production, I love that. If it's just an audio book, and I say just an audio book knowing that some of them are very well produced, I'm not discounting that. If it's a book that's meant to be a written book, I do better with it there. But if it's an audio drama, I do love that. I wish I could enjoy audiobooks more because it would be more convenient.
Man, I do tons of audiobooks. I don't know how many I've done in the last couple of years, but I easily a couple hundred probably. I like them. I do find fiction is, especially with a really good narrator who's like maybe doing the voice changes a little bit, or
did you say narrator?
Different intonation. Huh?
Did you say narrator? It's narrator.
I don't know, maybe it's late, man. The narrator, the narrator. I don't know. The narrator.
Oh man.
Yeah, I dig them though, but I find myself with nonfiction having a little more of a challenge, unless it's really, really well done, and I like listening to the author or something. Like to me the best. The books that have been nonfiction that I've in audiobook form connected with the most are when they're read by the author. So,
Bad Dragonite says, headline: fake internet lawyer gets fake internet teacher on to support World War II bad guy propaganda center. There you go.
Fantastic.
Count Camp says, I really loved sci-fi and fantasy back in high school. My English teachers were all against it because it didn't have much merit, but please include some sci-fi and fantasy. One I recommend is Golem and the Jinni by Helen Wecker. Wecker.
That's a great book. Yeah. I love science fiction, and I was exactly like whoever that person was, where when I was in middle school and high school, all I really wanted to read was science fiction. So I read tons and tons of it, Arthur C. Clarke and, Dune, Frank Herbert, and all those. And yeah, you're right. Like people have been looking down on them for a long time, but I think it's changing. I think there's enough really good science fiction novels now, but I think also, there's younger teachers like me who were raised really thinking, like really connecting deeply to these stories, but then also recognizing that like science fiction is all really just about exploring what does it mean to be human. And so like if that's not a great question for a English class, I don't know what is.
Yeah, and we had professors like this in undergrad who
we did
heavily discounted genre fiction, and that's a silly position to take.
Yeah. Well, that's why honestly, that's really my main point with Stephen King. I don't actually think he's the best living author. I don't know how you could make that statement. He's someone I really like lately, and for me, he's like a great. But what he's done, what reading his books have done for me is rekindle my faith that you can write in genre form and do it well. And it can be good and valuable. So,
what about Robert Heinlein?
Love Robert Heinlein. Fantastic. Have Spacesuit Will Travel. Fantastic.
Which one did I get?
Double Star.
I picked up like 4 Heinlein books. One of them was really weirdly titled. It was something about like having sex with a bunch
Robots
of women.
of Dawn. Was it having sex with robots?
No, with a bunch of women. That's a joke. Hold on one second.
Well, no, he has one called, I think it's called Robots of Dawn, and it's that's kind of part of the plot. It's about
It's Time Enough for Love. I'll show it to the.
Oh yeah, I have heard of that though.
I'll show it to the stream here. Look at this almost not safe for work cover. I love it. Time Enough for Love, Robert Heinlein. I haven't read this yet.
That's amazing.
Is it good? I got it for $2.
I don't know. I know he explores some of those interesting questions. So I don't know.
Let's see. Follows Lazarus along through a vast
good.
and magnificent timescape of centuries and worlds. Heinlein's longest and most ambitious work. It is the story of a man so in love with life that he refused to stop living it, and so in love with time that he became his own ancestor. Weird.
That's weird but awesome.
Gawker says every Lazarus Long book involves him banging his way across basically everything with a vagina. Perfect. Great. I'm gonna go give that to my kids to read. All right, Bad Dragonite says Heath should get Nick's new book in his library, 50 Shades of Latent Gay. No Name says, after childhood abuse from my large family, I missed getting married in 20s / college while recovering. Now in my 40s, some people assume I'm gay. Non-friends view me as not a man. I want a family and struggle to meet a Christian woman. Just really discouraged. That's a tough spot, buddy. I'm trying to... I assume you go to church. If you're looking for Christian women, that's a place to kind of find them. What about you? Where do you find Christian women, Heath? Not like where do you find them?
Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, I mean, church is a good place to find Christian women. But I honestly, I think that's a really... for that particular question, if this person isn't already exploring some of Jordan Peterson's stuff, I would highly recommend it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think he's speaking to that sort of problem where you're kind of just stuck and you kind of feel like you need a breakthrough. And his advice would be the same thing that mine would be, which is just that the thing that's most attractive to women is someone who has done the work on themselves and has gone through the processes that they need to make themselves attractive and competent. And that doesn't mean like success, like the most successful. It doesn't mean that you have the most money or that you're the most attractive, but it does mean that you start taking responsibility for yourself. It does mean that you're honest with yourself, and I recommend Jordan Peterson because, it wasn't too long ago that I had gotten an injury at work, and that set off like one of the worst years of my life where, through a variety of circumstances that mostly were out of my control, I ended up losing my initial job, not being able to get the other one that I wanted. And so I was in a long period of unemployment, and it was a really dark time, and and I was just kind of stuck, like how do I even get out of this? And so a lot of the things that people that someone like Jordan Peterson is saying is all about just, there are a lot of things you can't control. You can't control what a lady will think, but you can control what you do with yourself and how you present yourself. And so,
like washing your
maybe
penis.
check those out.
I said, like washing your penis.
Well, for sure. But, it's stuff like that, presentability.
Give it a scrub,
but
bucko.
It's simple stuff. It's just taking responsibility for the things around you, and what is there that you can do? What's the smallest thing, and just start doing that and doing it well. And it's sort of the one foot in front of the other sort of strategy. But I think ultimately I think those are what women I think are attracted to is a certain degree of competency, and so if you can show that, then I think that's a good thing. So
Marty Lund says dad jokes come from the same place as the male impulse to fart in a confined space to watch his companions moan and make pained faces. Yeah, I think so. Snack Sheet says tell him to lurk / poll for 6 months. He'll learn what memes are, all right, and probably gain 80 pounds also. Blue Samurai Zero says one meme to rule them all, one meme to find them, one meme to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. In the dankness bind them.
In the dankness bind them.
FGC Anon says memes are just like inside jokes. The more you understand the context of the joke, the funnier it is. Memes die the same as a joke that's gotten stale or is just a crappy joke. Blue Samurai Zero says in high school, more than half of what we read was banned in the public schools. Lol, good stuff. Would Heath want books such as Ivanhoe, Bambi, King Arthur, 20,000 Leagues, Journey to the Center of the Earth, Tolkien, Lewis, or other classics? Just my dad's suggestions.
Yeah, those are all fantastic books. Yeah, I'm hoping to have a good mix of those classics.
Blue Samurai Zero. Wait, no. Sorry. Xander's Rant says, what books do you recommend everyone to read? does Heath have a list? What is a favorite book that changed your life beside the Bible? And do you guys read any Christian/pastors books? That's pretty much a hard no for me on the last one. I don't, just because I just read 40K now if I read anything. I don't want to read anything else. I don't have time. But the favorite book, what's a favorite book that changed my life besides the Bible? I'm going to come up with an answer for that. Do you have any answers to those questions?
So there were a couple questions, right? Like what would I recommend? What are my personal favorites that have changed my life, right? And then like religious or ministry Christian books.
Yeah, recommend everybody to read. Favorite book that changed your life beside the Bible. And then do you read Christian/pastor books?
Mm-hmm. Books that I think everybody should read.
Limited to 5.
I mean, that's... Huh?
Limit it to 5, just so we're not here.
That's hard. Yeah, no, that's hard. Here's honestly, this is so cliche, and I hate kind of saying this, but when you say everybody, books that everybody needs to read, I think everybody should read the Narnia series. Narnia is it's a children's book, but it's beautiful. It's deep. It's a fantastic world, but it's full of so much beauty and truth. Like I was reading The Magician's Nephew to my sons the other night, and I had to stop because I just was there was this part that was just so emotional for me because it's just like it's a really powerful moment in the book. And so I explained to them, like, I'm sorry, this is what it means to me. And so, a book that's accessible to everybody, I think that those would be that or The Hobbit maybe would be my my suggestions. So, but other books that changed my life?
Yeah, book that changed your life.
Well, book that changed my life?
I have an answer. I have an answer for this one.
There's a lot of them. Do you know this one?
I've got this one for me. Yeah, it's Paradise Lost. And the reason Paradise Lost changed my life was very challenging, especially at the time I read it. It was very, very challenging to my my perception of how we characterize everything, and the conversations that happen in Paradise Lost are just great. Like it's a classic for a reason, but I mean the interactions, they change the interplay of this story and tradition that are not, it's not an exclusively Christian tradition. It's a very Western tradition that we have in general. It's since Judeo-Christianity has so permeated all of culture and informed it for so long, like even if you don't believe anything, even if you're a complete atheist, you know the story well enough, or what you think the story is, and Paradise Lost challenges that, and you kind of get an idea of how much of that informed story comes from Paradise Lost and comes from we'll call it extra biblical text. And I just really, it was very good for me to read that book, especially when I did.
Yeah,
that's mine.
Yeah, Paradise Lost. I'm just trying to think. I'm even looking at my bookshelves, just trying to think, because I know I'm going to forget something that I'll say some other book, and then I'll think later, like, oh gosh, that was more impactful. Because honestly, like, I mean, books are always affecting me for different reasons. But I would say that one of the more powerful books that I've read recently, like in the last 5 years, is Anna Karenina, and that's it's not a super easy book, but it's not a hard book. But there's this main character, Lievin, I just really related with him. Like I felt like, I can understand this character. And for me, that was a powerful experience because I started putting myself in that character's shoes. And so then to some extent, when he at the very end has his little sort of epiphany and resolution where he kind of realizes what he needs to do to move forward, for me, it kind of also felt like, hey, this is something you can do too. And so, yeah, I mean, that was a fantastic book for me. It, I don't know about changing my life in dramatic ways, but it probably has. It's made me think differently. Ministry books, yeah, I read a bunch. I mostly do New Testament stuff. I teach like Pauline literature and things like that. I've read a bunch of them. One of the more enjoyable ones recently that I could recommend would be let's see, I'm not going to remember the title. Hold on, I'll just look it up. It's about the Apostle Paul, and it kind of goes over. It's a very summary of like the very kind of most troubling parts of the Apostle Paul's teaching, things that may be misunderstood, and it's called Paul Behaving Badly, and so pretty interesting. But yeah, that's a good one. The Divine Conspiracy is another religious one that's fantastic, super deep, really powerful. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of depends. There's so many ways I could go with that, but those are the ones that come to my mind for being maybe more accessible.
Blue Samurai Zero says a friend works at the library. In a meeting regarding book buying, a female top-level manager wrote in the suggested guidelines more diversity. For example, no more white male ex-CIA agents. Someone should report it to HR. Their tactics on them. There you go. Bad Dragonite says Chad 40K, Chatter Halo, Chaddest Doom, Virgin Call of Duty. I disagree with the ordering except for the last one. Let's see, where were we? Tie210 says the book is about his wife and daughter pass away in a year of each other and how he copes with that. That's that Ghost Rider book, I believe he's talking about. Tablet Link says ElfQuest comics were quite good. Nova Zero says play better games like the Witcher series, then read the books, then imagine that cuck of an author talking dirt on the game that he willingly sold the rights to for cash. Cheers. Kalinka Pavlova
the
says
Netflix series, who knows what that's going to be like.
Oh, garbage. I could tell you already. Kalinka Pavlova says Emily Rodda, Rodda, sorry, had to yell, almost forgot. Never heard of her.
No.
Blaine 20 says Innis were insurrectionists, terrorists who were a pain in the butt for a government when the Covenant first struck. Joey Rudolph says it's all about World War Z, best audiobook by far. World War Z is a great book. It really is.
It is a good book. I like that book a lot. Yeah, for sure.
Malachi Tomlinson says Levin Thumps is a great young adult fiction.
Okay.
Blaine 20 says a chatter was a smartphone/tablet. Audio logs were made by a company hired by Bungie using voice actors and writers, and they were scattered around the web, found by following very obscure clues. Whoa, cool. Talbot Link says should also get Neuromancer and Snow Crash, two of the original cyberpunk novels.
Yeah, I've heard of those.
My mom recommended Snow Crash to me a long time ago, and I haven't read it. I should. Cole Kiddo says The Abyss ignited my love of everything sci-fi. Yeah, you and Lady Rackets. She loves that freaking book. I don't love the book only because I love Ed Harris. So I feel like reading the book would be betraying Ed Harris. Austin Heartless says wrong. The most attractive thing is a clean bedroom. Go clean your room.
That's right.
Bad Dragonite says, has Heath considered starting a book review / book analysis YouTube channel? I think he could do well. I don't know if he has.
I don't know.
TLJ Screwjob says, one of my high school teachers was going to college for math, but then he read. I can't remember now. Darn it. I think it was either Frankenstein, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, or Henry V. Oh, so then he screwed up his life. was going to college for math and ended up being a teacher. Sucker.
I know, right? Yeah, that's a ticket to poverty, I think.
Oh man. No. Oh, I called you Rudolph, but it's Ruloff. Sorry. That's the nighttime kicking in.
Yeah.
Here's the last one, and then we can wrap up the stream. No Name Abuse Guy says, thanks for the encouragement. My old church held me back, especially RE women. Been through counseling. I'm responsible, employed, etc. Martial arts and weights help. I'm reading Peterson and have listened to tons. I'll be patient and keep at it. May need to move. Yeah, sometimes that's the solution too. Unfortunately, man, those are the type of factors that you've got to do. But it looks like you're working on yourself, and that's really that's it, man. Work on yourself, confidence, and that'll do it eventually.
Right. And this is like maybe slightly cliche, but I do believe this. I think that sometimes you find the thing you're looking for when you're not looking for it. Like here's an analogy. I don't know if you know this about night vision, but the way that you're supposed to look for things at night in the dark is if you want to find something, you don't look directly at it. Instead, you look to the side and you use your peripheral vision to try to find contrasts. And that's how you see in the dark. And it works, by the way. But I think life is a lot like that, where, when we're like really trying to focus for that one thing we really want, a lot of times we don't quite see it. And sometimes we just need a little space to focus on other things. And then out of the periphery, we notice a contrast and we notice this thing. And so, I don't know. That's how it was for me. I thought I was going to get married at like 20 because that's when my parents were married, and that was the sort of the Christian thing to do, get married right away, have a kid, start the whole family thing, the right turn into adulthood. And I didn't get married until I was, I think, 28, 27, something like that. And so I obviously a little younger maybe than I think the gentleman was saying, he was in his 40s, but I mean but it was a long time. It was a lot of waiting. And for me, it was just, I just had to get to a place where I was focusing on being content with myself and enjoying life where I was. And that was the moment where I finally could maybe be ready for that relationship. So I don't know. Maybe that's another pointer. I don't know.
I lied about having the last chat. There's 3 more now.
Oh, geez.
So, okay, but seriously, guys, we're going to wrap up the stream. I just want to make sure we get to these. Kalinka Pavlova says, Emily Roto wrote Del Toro Quest, a series of books. Aussie author, check her out. I thought all Aussies were criminals. Shining Nebula says, no, this is the last one. Maybe. I recommend The Picture of Dorian Gray. That's a classic.
Yes, fantastic.
Nick's Music says JBP, Jordan Peterson equals liar/occultist. Read Jordanetics by Vox Day. And if you don't, you're in the cult. So there you go.
Yeah. All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining. I added that part. That was my joke. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, guys. Do consider checking out the GoFundMe in the link down in the description. It does go towards helping some kids get some more reading comprehension. It's a thing that'll last a very long time and impact a whole lot of kids. So every dollar helps. Every dollar goes towards books and the delivery of books to children. So thank you so much for that. I'll probably talk about it a couple more times. Thanks for hanging out with me and meeting my friend Heath. And did you want to say anything before we go?
No, just thanks for everybody who's helping out with the project, and thanks for listening to me and putting up with my bad opinions about Stephen King. I promise I'll have different opinions next time about it sometime.
Always have different opinions every time. That's the best way.
Right. Different offensive opinions, yeah, for sure.
And guys, against my better judgment, I will play some Twitch tonight. So come pop over to the Twitch stream in about 15 minutes. Pop over whenever, and then I'll start it up as soon as I can. But I'm going to say goodbye to my guest. You guys have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow. There will be a show. I'm not sure what it'll be yet. But watch on Twitter. Do you have a Twitter that people could follow? You don't use it, do you?
Not really, but it's my name, Heithw. So that's pretty easy. They could follow that. Then maybe they could find me on Facebook too.
Maybe you should don't tell people to do that. Just
I don't know.
You should start tweeting 100-character book reviews on Twitter. Right. Just condense an entire book into one tweet. That'd be great.
One tweet. All right.
I think that'd actually be fantastic if you could do that. But anyway,
I'm sure somebody's. I'd be surprised.
No, but
if they
who cares
done it
about
already,
somebody else? Yeah. They're dumb. Remember, everybody else is dumb. Only you are important. I'm just kidding.
That's right.
That's what I learned from Jordan Peterson. No, I'm kidding. All right. See you guys later. You guys have a good night. You don't leave yet. I'm going to talk to you after the show. Peace. Peace.
Peace out.
No theme song because I can't. Sorry. See you later. Bye.